Chapter 604. As soon as Xing Yao made his move, he unleashed a thunderous attack in an attempt to suppress Lu Ming in one blow. Child's play. Lu Ming bellowed. A spear radiance rushed out from his body and soared into the sky. Bang! Xing Yao's giant flaming palm was crushed by the spear radiance. Whoosh! Lu Ming soared into the sky and swept his spear at the giant ring. Clang! The huge ring kept shaking, and the scarlet flames were almost shaken off. A cracking sound came from the ring, and a hole appeared on it, and it flew far away. Poochie! Xing Yao's face turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated rapidly. How could this be? Xing Yao screamed in his heart. It was unbelievable. His two moves, which were close to his full strength, were easily countered by Lu Ming. Moreover, Lu Ming even managed to injure him through the ring. This kind of combat strength was simply terrifying. Suppress! Lu Ming roared. He took a step forward and charged at Xing Yao at lightning speed. He swept his spear at him from above. Xing Yao roared in anger and exerted all his strength. He almost turned into a flaming man as he unleashed his strongest attack. However, all his efforts were in vain. Under Lu Ming's spear radiance, all his attacks turned into nothing. The giant spear radiance smashed onto Xing Yao's body. Xing Yao screamed in pain and his body flew downwards. Stop! Lu Ming waved his hand and a ribbon of true ether wrapped around Xing Yao, stopping him from falling. Then, Lu Ming's body fell. His foot was about to stomp on Xing Yao's old face. This stomp contained the power of the 9 dragon sky-ascending steps. No! Xing Yao roared. However, in the next moment, Lu Ming's foot accurately landed on Xing Yao's face. Xing Yao's body fell rapidly like a meteorite and heavily smashed onto the true ether shield below. A loud boom, accompanied by screams of agony and the sound of bones breaking, resounded throughout the arena. Then, everyone saw Xing Yao lying on top of the Zhen Yuan shield like an old, dead dog. His whole body was twitching and blood was flowing out of his mouth. Especially his face, there was a clear shoe print that almost flattened his old face. Hiss, gasps could be heard from the audience. Countless people looked at Lu Ming in shock. 3 moves, it really was 3 moves. Including the last kick, it was exactly 3 moves. 3 moves, Lu Ming really suppressed Xing Yao in 3 moves, and even beat Xing Yao half to death. This, on the stage, Mu Zheng and Mu Xiuyuan were dumbfounded. Although they previously hoped that Lu Ming could win, in their hearts, they did not have much confidence. After all, half a year ago, Lu Ming was only a 4th-layer martial emperor. Being able to reach the great perfection king realm in half a year was already a miracle, let alone defeating a peak king. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect that not only would Lu Ming win, but he would also win in such a clean and exciting manner. This kid, Mu Zheng could not stop muttering, feeling extremely excited. How long ago was it? 1.5 years ago, when Lu Ming had just entered the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, he was not even a half-step king. In just 1.5 years, Lu Ming was already standing at the peak of the king realm. It was simply a miracle. In the history of Tianxian domain, there had never been such a miracle. Beside Mu Zheng, Mu Yi's mouth was wide open. He was dumbfounded and also filled with disbelief. Below the arena, Mulan's looked at the young figure in the sky, feeling extremely excited. In her heart, scenes of the past kept flashing. The tender young man in Firestorm City, the young man who needed her protection. As time passed, he had already walked on his own path to becoming an expert. Not only had he far surpassed her, but he had also become a peak expert in Tianxian domain. He had become a mountain that could block the wind and rain, protecting her. Half a year ago, Lu Ming challenged the sacred star. Mulan's knew that Lu Ming was doing it for her. Then, Lu Ming disappeared for half a year. Half a year later, when she was about to get married, Lu Ming appeared again. He stood in front of her in a domineering manner, blocking everything for her. At this moment, her eyes were moist. She knew that she had not misjudged him. She had made the right choice. Lu Ming slowly walked down and appeared in front of the sacred star. What about now? It was still the same question. Now, did he have the qualifications to stand in front of the sacred star? Everyone's gaze followed Lu Ming's movements. In the sacred family, those who had conflicts with Lu Ming and even fought with him had complicated gazes. There was shock, horror, disbelief, and reverence. More than half a year ago, Lu Ming was still competing with them. But now, more than half a year had passed. Lu Ming had left them far behind. He was now able to stand in front of the sacred star. They were too far away from Lu Ming. They were no longer on the same level. Thinking of this, the elites of the sacred family felt dejected. There were also many people who had concluded that Lu Ming was hiding out of fear. Now, their faces were flushed with shame. Lu Ming wasn't hiding out of fear. He was probably cultivating somewhere. On the high platform, Mu Tian, Xingcang, and the sacred star's uncle's eyes moved slightly. They looked at Lu Ming seriously. Obviously, Lu Ming's combat strength had finally gained their recognition and made them take him seriously. The Saint Star had been very calm from the beginning to the end, but now, there seemed to be stars shining in his eyes, brilliant and dazzling. Not bad. The sacred star spoke. Let's fight in the sky. Lu Ming said. Then, he soared into the sky and appeared in the sky. The sacred star's body emitted starlight. He also soared into the sky and stood opposite Lu Ming. At this moment, many people's hearts pounded. They widened their eyes and stared at the two young figures in the sky. Lu Ming and the sacred star were finally going to fight. Half a year ago, Lu Ming's challenge to the sacred star spread throughout Tianqian City. Some people heard it and dismissed it with a laugh. They thought it was just a joke. Even if it wasn't a joke, Lu Ming couldn't really challenge the sacred star. The difference was too great. He wasn't qualified at all. Even if they really fought, it would be a one-sided battle. The sacred star would probably be able to suppress Lu Ming with a single palm. But now, no one thought that the sacred star could suppress Lu Ming with a single palm. Lu Ming had just used his strength to prove that he was qualified to fight against the sacred star. Some people even began to worry about the sacred star. Half a year ago, the sacred star was a peak 9th level martial king. At that time, the sacred star's combat strength was said to not be weaker than a peak king. But Lu Ming wasn't weaker than a peak king. He had suppressed a peak king in 3 moves. Had the sacred star broken through to peak king? If he hadn't, would he be a match for Lu Ming? Everyone stared at the sacred star. Your combat strength is not bad. Half a year ago, you might have been able to fight me. But now, the result won't change. Boom! As the sacred star's voice fell, a huge pillar of starlight shot out from the sacred star's body. It shot into the sky and into the endless void. A powerful aura permeated the air. Chapter 605. The Saint Star's body emitted a terrifying aura, and a vast pressure spread out. This was the aura of a peak king. Peak king. Sacred Star has become a peak king. God, Sacred Star is already very powerful. Now that he has become a peak king, how powerful will he be? He is indeed a peerless genius on the list of top 1,000 talents. Now, other than the palace master and a few Sea of Soul realm experts, no one in Tianqian domain is his match. Lu Ming is doomed. He is no match for Sacred Star. The crowd was in an uproar. Many people had thought that Lu Ming could fight against Sacred Star City, but now they had changed their minds. Lu Ming was merely at the peak of LV9 Martial King realm. Although he could defeat Holy Glory, Holy Star and Holy Glory were two completely different concepts. Sacred Star, who had become a peak king, could easily kill Sacred Star with one move. Ha, let's see how that kid can fight now. Mu Yi sneered. Xingqian, hurry up and cripple that little bastard. Don't delay the wedding day. Sacred Star's mother shouted. Has he really become a peak king? Lu Ming whispered. In Hong Domain, Qin Qingshan's ranking was one rank lower than Sacred Star's. Since Qin Qingshan had become a peak king, Lu Ming guessed that Sacred Star had most likely become a peak king as well. Now, it was indeed so. Lu Ming, if you admit defeat and cripple your cultivation now, I can spare your life. Sacred Star's body was full of starlight. He looked like a god who had descended from the heavens to inspect the world. He was extremely confident. Ha, Sacred Star, do you think you can defeat me? Lu Ming stood in the void. His long hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were like two unsheathed swords, revealing a sharp battle intent. I'll let you know the difference between us. Sacred Star's eyes shone with starlight. At this moment, the starlight on his body boiled like a burning flame. Slash! With a soft shout, a star battle sword condensed. It was 1,000 feet long and slashed violently toward Lu Ming. Heaven's Law Palm. Lu Ming struck out with his palm. The Heaven's Path Palm was only a martial technique that was infinitely close to the heaven level. However, with Lu Ming's current cultivation, it displayed a terrifying power that seemed to have surpassed its original level. A huge palm print with 9 fingers appeared. The stripes on it were clear, like the inscriptions of the heavenly way. It emitted a terrifying aura and blasted toward the giant star's sword. A heaven-shaking, earth-shattering boom rang out. Resplendent light shone in the sky. Some of the weaker cultivators felt a piercing pain in their eyes. Tears rolled down their cheeks, and they couldn't help but close their eyes. In the next moment, the light dissipated, and the palm and the massive sword vanished simultaneously. Xingqian, there's no need to test me. Show me your true strength. Otherwise, you'll end up like Xing Yao. At some point in time, a long spear had appeared in Lu Ming's hand. His fighting spirit soared to the heavens. I'll grant you your wish. Star Sword Formula. The starlight on the Sacred Star grew even more resplendent. It was clearly daytime, but starlight fell from the depths of the sky, landing on the Sacred Star. The star intent was indeed mysterious. At the same time, a dazzling battle sword appeared in the Sacred Star's hand. With a wave of the battle sword, stars suddenly appeared in the sky. Then, the stars fell one by one towards Lu Ming, turning into swords of stars. They shot towards Lu Ming like streamers. Hundreds of streamers covered the sky, completely locking down Lu Ming's path of retreat. There was no way for him to escape. 10,000 dragons kill. Lu Ming stood still and stabbed out with his spear. Hundreds of tricolor true dragons flew out, roaring as they rushed towards the streamers of stars. Boom! 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 Like fireworks exploding, the rumbling continued. The sky was filled with resplendent light, which was incomparably gorgeous. However, no one was in the mood to watch. Their eyes were completely locked on Lu Ming and the Sacred Star. It's my turn. Lu Ming said softly. He slowly walked out, his long spear shining brightly. With a stab, a huge tricolor true dragon roared and pounced towards the Sacred Star. Star Sword, 10,000 swords become one. The Sacred Star waved his hand. 10,000 stars seemed to enter the Sacred Star's battle sword as he slashed out. Boom! Another explosion sounded in the sky. Many people felt their eardrums vibrating and their heads buzzing. In shock, they hurriedly circulated their true yuan to protect their eardrums. Dazzling lights appeared in the sky and then disappeared. Kill! Kill! The two figures got closer and closer to each other. Finally, they collided heavily against each other. The space shook violently as if it couldn't bear the weight. Boom! 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 The two figures turned into two streaks of light as they exchanged blows in the air. Streaks of unbridled force tore through the void and fell down continuously. If it weren't for the true Yuan barrier set up by the elders, the tables and chairs below would have all been destroyed. Even so, the true Yuan barrier continued to tremble. The expressions of the dozen or so peak kings changed, and they were incomparably shocked. Just the overflowing energy was enough to make them feel a huge pressure. If they really participated in the battle, wouldn't they be easily killed? Was this still the power of a king? At the scene, countless eyes stared at the sky without blinking. Their eyes were filled with incomparable horror. Lu Ming was actually able to contend with the sacred star and fight it to this extent. Today, regardless of whether Lu Ming won or lost, he was destined to be famous in the Tianxian domain. He would leave a thick mark in the history of the Tianxian domain. Damn it, I will definitely kill this little bastard. The sacred star's mother growled. Her eyes revealed a sinister look. Boom! Boom! The battle in the sky continued. It was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, more than 50 moves had been exchanged. Buzz! At this time, a layer of blood light spread out from the sacred star's body. Then, starlight spread out and a scroll appeared above Shen Xingqian's head. The scroll opened, and 7 stars shone on it. They were the 7 heavenly stars. On the scroll, 7 silver chakras were emitting rays of light. This was the sacred star's second bloodline, the 7th grade king bloodline. The sacred star's bloodline erupted, and his aura became stronger. You have a bloodline, but I don't. Explode! Boom! Shen Xingqian's second bloodline erupted. It was also a 7th grade king. Now, both of Lu Ming's bloodlines had been promoted to the 7th grade king. However, Lu Ming did not erupt his 9 dragons bloodline. Lu Ming decided that in the future, he would try not to use the 9 dragons bloodline in crowded places, especially in the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. Although Supreme 9 Sons had helped him seal his aura, who knew if anyone would guess something from his appearance? It was better to be careful. The eruption of their bloodlines made the battle more intense, and the battle became more intense. In the blink of an eye, more than 50 moves had been exchanged. Look, Lu Ming is at a disadvantage. That's right, he is no match. He is being suppressed. The sacred star's attacks are increasing, and Lu Ming's attacks are decreasing. That's right, Lu Ming is going to lose. Until now, Lu Ming had not comprehended anything from his bloodline. The bloodline of the 9 dragons could devour all things. In fact, it could be said to be a secret art. Once awakened, he would possess it. As for the second bloodline, it was always covered by a layer of mist. Right now, he could only see the word suppress. It was as if there was a layer of something blocking it. Lu Ming couldn't observe it at all, let alone comprehend it. Lu Ming. Below, Mulans looked worried, her hands clutching her clothes tightly. Lu Ming, this battle is over. The sacred star walked in the air, his aura strong and powerful. Is it really over? Yes, it should be over. It seems that I still have to use that power. Lu Ming whispered and sighed slightly. Boom. The next moment, Lu Ming's aura burst out violently and rose sharply. At this moment, Lu Ming's aura was crazy. Everyone was dumbfounded. Lu Ming's aura has also risen. Heavens! And it's rising so quickly, more than the sacred star. It's terrifying. Sensing the violent vital essence in his body, Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. This was the power of the Dandan inscription array. Just now, Lu Ming had been suppressing the true essence in his body, keeping it at Lu Ming's original strength. He wanted to see the difference between his strength and the sacred stars. The sacred star was indeed stronger than Qin Shan. How could this be? The people of the sacred family, the sacred star's mother, Mu-yi, and the others all cried out in disbelief. This fellow is forever unfathomable. Mulins exhaled and smiled. Mu Xiuyuan and Mu Zheng were the same. The sacred star's eyes suddenly narrowed, and a trace of disbelief flashed in them. Sacred star, this battle should be over. Fight! Lu Ming shouted, stepping into the void and strolling out. With every step he took, the void shook violently, the power of the 9 dragon sky-stomping steps erupted. Slash! The sacred star exploded, and the battle sword was incomparably bright, as if it could split the space. The power of Lu Ming's first step was easily broken, but the power of the second step quickly followed. When the sacred star broke the power of the second step, his face changed slightly, and he felt a great pressure. But immediately, the power of the third step arrived. The third step was even stronger, several times stronger than the second step. Slash! The sacred star roared and slashed out with his sword. Boom! With a loud explosion, the sacred star's body shook violently, and he quickly retreated. The whole place was in an uproar. The sacred star had retreated, and he was at a disadvantage. Lu Ming, who was at the peak of LV9 Martial King realm, was able to fight the sacred star and force him to a disadvantage. No, the sacred star can't lose. That little bastard, he deserves to die. The sacred star's Mu Qing screamed with hatred. Ah! The sacred star roared, his hair flying wildly, and his starlight surging. He could not stand being suppressed by Lu Ming. What are you screaming for? Your fate is sealed. Lu Ming sneered and strode forward. Kid, let's stop here. It's enough for today's battle. Next, pretend to lose to the sacred star. At this moment, a voice entered Lu Ming's ears. Lu Ming was stunned, and then he sneered. It seemed that someone could no longer sit still. Lu Ming's gaze swept the surroundings. Kid, don't look around. I'm the sacred star's uncle. I'll tell you straight, the sacred star's identity is not something you can compare to. Not only is he a member of the sacred family, but he also has the bloodline of the Shangguan. You can't defeat him. Today, the winner must be the sacred star. If you defeat him, I guarantee that you will die. The voice sounded again. Lu Ming's gaze shifted to the high platform. In the end, his gaze landed on a middle-aged man who was wearing a jade crown. This man was the sacred star's uncle, Shengguan Wuchen. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. Ridiculous, this is ridiculous. Seeing that the sacred star was at a disadvantage, someone jumped out and asked him to lose to the sacred star on purpose. The reason was that the sacred star had the bloodline of the Shangguan clan, and his identity was higher than his. Otherwise, Lu Ming would die. Lu Ming had never heard of such a ridiculous thing. It was simply despicable. Would Lu Ming listen to him? Obviously not. Bang! Chapter 607. Boom! Lu Ming stepped out, surrounded by the three-colored essence. He held a long spear in his hand, his long hair fluttering in the wind. He stood as straight as a mountain. Roar! A huge tricolor true dragon with dense scales pounced towards the sacred star with a deafening roar. It was the same true dragon attack, but it was much more powerful than before. Saint Star roared. He waved his hand, and a small tower shining with starlight appeared in front of him. The small tower expanded rapidly and blocked in front of him. Saint Star had lost his confidence and began to defend himself. Boom! The three-colored dragon pounced on the small tower, and it was sent flying. Saint Star retreated rapidly, his body trembling slightly, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He was injured. Boom! But Lu Ming did not give him a chance to breathe. His long spear turned into a huge spear radiance and smashed towards Saint Star with the force of Mount Tai. The spear smashed Saint Star thousands of meters away, and he spat out blood from his mouth. Saint Star is going to lose. God, I never thought that someone in Tianxian domain could defeat Saint Star. Everyone at the scene stared at the sky with their eyes wide open in shock. Since the rise of the Saint Star, he had been invincible. In the Tianxian region, all the other geniuses and monstrous geniuses were nothing in front of the Saint Star. His cultivation speed was terrifying, and his combat strength was unparalleled. He had suppressed the younger generation of Tianxian domain, and he had never lost a battle among the younger generation. Later, Saint Star even left Tianxian domain and went to other large domains to cultivate and compete with the geniuses of other large domains. How was his record? Others did not know, but he was listed on the list of top 1,000 talents of Eastern Wilderness. It had been many years since anyone from Tianxian domain had been listed on the list of top 1,000 talents of Eastern Wilderness. This was enough to prove everything. The Saint Star had too many light scars on its body. But was such a peerless genius going to be defeated today? Was he going to be defeated by someone younger and with a lower cultivation level than him? Many people thought they were dreaming. Damn you little bastard! Bastard! Saint Star's mother, Shangguan Wuling, screamed when she saw Saint Star being sent flying. You're courting death. At the side, Shangguan Wuchen slapped the armrest of his chair and shouted in a low voice. Then, he flicked his finger and a stream of energy pierced through the void and silently entered Lu Ming's body. None of the martial emperor realm cultivators at the scene felt it. Beside Shangguan Wuchen, Sheng Tsung raised his eyebrows and sneered. On the other side, Mu Tian's expression changed slightly as a trace of displeasure flashed through his eyes. However, he did not take any action. In the sky, Lu Ming's fighting spirit soared. Just as he was about to finish off the sacred star in one go, his expression suddenly changed. He felt a strange true yuan suddenly appear in his meridians. This true yuan was like a wild beast, rampaging through his meridians. His meridians felt a burst of pain, and the true yuan in his body was almost scattered by this true yuan. Despicable. You actually dared to secretly tamper with him. Lu Ming's mind was very sharp. He immediately thought of the middle-aged man, Sheng Xingqian's uncle. Xingqian, attack with all your might. At this moment, Shangguan Wuchen's voice rang in Sheng Xingqian's ears. Sheng Xingqian originally thought that he would be defeated today. However, his eyes suddenly lit up and he let out a long roar. Starlight surged and crossed the void, charging towards Lu Ming. Dazzling sword light slashed towards Lu Ming's head. Damn it! Lu Ming roared and waved his long spear to block. However, Lu Ming's true yuan was scattered and his meridians were in pain. He could only use 10% of his true yuan, which greatly reduced his combat strength. He was sent flying 1,000 meters by Sheng Xingqian's sword. Lu Ming spat out a mouthful of blood from the internal and external collision. How despicable! How dare you use such a despicable method? Dandan, who was on Lu Ming's shoulder, shouted. Dandan's voice spread far and wide. At the scene, everyone looked at each other, puzzled. Just a moment ago, Lu Ming clearly had the upper hand and was about to win. Why did he suddenly stop his attack? At the same time, Sheng Xingqian suddenly attacked and injured Lu Ming with a single move. Hearing Dandan's shout, some people's eyes flickered and all kinds of guesses appeared in their minds. Could it be that someone secretly interfered with Lu Ming? Mulin's, Mu Zheng, Mu Xiuyuan, and the others' eyes flickered with anger as they looked towards the Sheng family's platform. Only a Sea of Soul realm expert would be able to do such a thing without anyone noticing. What do you mean by someone tampering with him? This little bastard obviously cultivated some kind of evil martial art that increased his combat strength in a short period of time. It's just that the side effects are acting up now. Shangguan Wuling said coldly. Seeing that Sheng Xingqian had the upper hand, she was overjoyed. Kill! How could Sheng Xingqian miss this opportunity? He crazily attacked Lu Ming. Damn it! Devour! Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline with all his strength. A powerful devouring power appeared in his spine and swallowed the Zhen Yuan. At the same time, he barely resisted Xing Xingqian's attack. Like this, he was naturally no match for Xing Xingqian and was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood and felt waves of pain coming from his body. It's working. However, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He could feel that Zhen Yuan was being devoured by the 9 dragons' bloodline. Although the true origin struggled with all its might like a ferocious beast, it was still slowly being devoured. Block it. I just need to block it for a dozen breaths and this Zhen Yuan will be devoured. Lu Ming roared in his heart. Lu Ming burst out with 3 types of intent and circulated the Zhen Yuan he could control, trying his best to resist. Boom! 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 Others could see that Lu Ming was completely at a disadvantage and could only passively resist. Under Xing Xingqian's attacks, he was like a lone boat in the sea that could be destroyed at any time. Die! Die! You little bastard! How dare you compete with my son? Shangguan Wuling roared in her heart. Lu Ming. Mulan's clenched her fists tightly and was extremely worried. Soon. Soon. One breath after another passed. That Zhen Yuan was being devoured inch by the 9 dragons' bloodline. 2 more inches, 1 more inch, ha ha ha, Lu Ming, go to hell. Do you think you can compete with me? Xing Xingqian laughed. He had to win today. Although he had guessed that it was his uncle who did it, it didn't matter. As long as he could win, it was fine. Clang! He slashed out a powerful sword light towards Lu Ming's neck. He had already decided to kill Lu Ming, so he didn't mind doing it now. Is that so? You only know how to use despicable means. How dare you compare yourself with me? At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes flashed and his aura burst out. Roar! A tricolor true dragon flew out, catching the Saint Star off guard and sending it flying. Cracking sounds could be heard from its chest as it broke several bones. It flew 2,000 meters away, blood gushing out of its mouth. Its eyes were filled with disbelief. Xingqian! Shangguan Wuling screamed. Bang! Shangguan Wuchen slammed the chair again as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Chapter 608. You're courting death. Let's see how many you can break. Shangguan Wuchen muttered in his heart. He flicked his finger, and another true yuan flew toward Lu Ming. On the other side, Mu Tian frowned, and the displeasure in his eyes intensified. He also flicked his finger, and a blast of energy flew out and collided with Shangguan Wuchen's energy, canceling each other out. Shangguan Wuchen's eyes turned cold, and he transmitted his voice, Brother Mu, what is the meaning of this? Brother Shangguan, don't go too far. As the palace master of the Tianxian branch, I have to ensure the fairness of the battle. Mu Tian transmitted his voice. Mu Tian, don't you want to marry your daughter to Xingqian? Shangguan Wuchen said coldly. That's another matter. Mu Tian transmitted his voice, and his attitude was firm. At this time, Lu Ming stepped forward and crossed the void, charging toward the holy star. He wanted to end the battle quickly. Who knew if there would be another blast of true yuan? Boom! 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 The 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps took 3 consecutive steps, and a violent force blasted toward the holy star. The holy star was seriously injured, and there was no way it could resist. It was beaten until it vomited blood. The rest of the people present were stunned, and they couldn't wrap their heads around it. Previously, Lu Ming had the upper hand and was about to win. Suddenly, his combat strength was greatly reduced, and he was suppressed by the holy star. But suddenly, Lu Ming erupted again and seriously injured the holy star. What was going on? Let's end this. Lu Ming whispered. He held the spear with both hands, and a huge spear light smashed toward the holy star. Stop! This battle is a draw. A loud roar suddenly rang out, and it spread throughout the whole place. It was Shengguan Wuchen's voice. A draw? Lu Ming's lips curled into a sneer. The spear gleam did not stop at all. Bang! The spear heavily smashed into Sacred Star's body. Sacred Star let out a pitiful scream as his body fell to the ground like a meteor. Finally, he smashed into the true essence light curtain like a little chick. Blood splattered everywhere. The true Yuan light screen shook violently, and the holy star was like a pile of mud, lying on the true Yuan light screen. Although he didn't die, he didn't know how many of his bones were broken. The entire place was silent. The air seemed to have frozen. Did Lu Ming win? Xing Chen. Shangguan Wuling screamed and rushed down from the stands to Xing Xing's side. You little bastard, you little bastard. How dare you injure Xing Chen so severely? Die. I want you dead. Men, skin this little bastard alive and feed him to the dogs. Shangguan Wuling screamed with hatred. Instantly, some of the elders of the Saint family unleashed their powerful auras. What are you doing? Does the heavenly mysterious domain belong to your Xing clan? Mu Zheng stood up and roared, his aura exploding. Sixth brother, what are you doing? This is the Xing family's matter, why are you interfering? Mu Yi said coldly. Shut up. Mu Zheng berated. Then, he strode forward and stared at the people of the Xing family. Some of the elders of the Mu family who were on good terms with Mu Zheng also stood together with him and stared at the people of the Xing family. Mu Yi's face darkened. Pooh! At this moment, Xing Xing spat out another mouthful of blood and looked at Lu Ming with hatred. Xing Xing, you've lost. You're not qualified to marry senior sister Mulan's. Lu Ming stared at Xing Xing and said slowly. Mulan's eyes were moist. Lu Ming finally did it. He finally defeated Xing Xing. When she was younger, Mulan had said in front of the Holy Star, Mu Tian, Xing Tsang, and the others that she wanted to find someone to defeat the Holy Star and prove that the Holy Star wasn't worthy of her. She said that there would be a better choice. At that time, Mu Tian, Xing Tsang, and the others took Mulan's words as a joke and agreed. Who would have thought that such a day would come? Lu Ming, sooner or later, I'll trample you under my feet and chop off your head. Sacred Star glared at Lu Ming with resentment and hissed. After this battle, his reputation would fall to the bottom of the valley. Xing Xing, I remember that half a year ago, you said that you'll let me know what despair is. I'll never be able to catch up to you. How about now? Lu Ming said indifferently. Half a year later, I'll let you know what despair is. You'll never be able to catch up to me. Xing Xingchen had personally said these words half a year ago. Even now, many people still remembered them. The past was still vivid in their minds, but half a year later, Lu Ming not only caught up to him, but also defeated him. How ironic was that? Xing Xing's face darkened, but he couldn't refute it. Now, let me tell you something. I can defeat you today, but you'll never be able to catch up to me in the future. From now on, Xing Xing is no longer worthy to be my opponent. Lu Ming's voice was calm, but everyone could hear his strong confidence and unwavering martial heart. In front of them, they saw a peerless genius blossoming in the divine wilderness continent. Xing Xing's chest heaved up and down, and he almost spurted out blood. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura spread out, like a vast ocean, pressing down on everyone's heart. Suddenly, everyone couldn't breathe properly, and their hearts raced. They looked at the place where the aura came from. It was Shangguan Wuchen. Shangguan Wuchen stood up, his face dark. The aura on his body was as deep and vast as a vast ocean. What future? You have no future. I told you to stop and end it in a draw. This should have been the best ending, but you didn't listen. You're courting death. Shangguan Wuchen spat out a gloomy voice, and every word was filled with killing intent. Ended in a draw. Ridiculous. Do you think everyone here is a fool? Lu Ming's gaze was like lightning. He looked at Shangguan Wuchen fearlessly. He didn't believe that Shangguan Wuchen would dare to attack him in front of so many people. They're not fools, but they have to be fools in front of my Shangguan clan. Shangguan Wuchen sneered as he stepped forward in the air. His words were blatantly domineering and forceful. Everyone's face turned ugly, but when they thought of the Shangguan clan's strength, they shut their mouths. Second brother, kill him. Kill this bastard. Shangguan Wuling screamed. Today, you must die. Shangguan Wuchen said word by word, filled with killing intent. Lu Ming's pupils shrank, and he felt goosebumps all over his body. Shangguan Wuchen was really going to kill him. Lu Ming's true origin circulated quickly, and he raised his aura to the maximum, ready to break out of the encirclement. Brother Shangguan, don't go too far. At this moment, Mu Tian stood up and said in a majestic voice, and a powerful aura shrouded Shangguan Wuchen. Mu Tian, what are you doing? Is your Mu family trying to go against my Shangguan clan? Can you afford to pay the price? Shangguan Wuchen looked at Mu Tian, still domineering. Big brother, don't be foolish. Mu Yi said. Shut up. Chapter 609. Mu Yi's face turned pale and he kept his mouth shut. This is the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. I am the Palace Master of the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. Lu Ming is the Imperial Sky Divine Guard of the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. Even if Lu Ming has done something wrong, he will be punished by the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. Mu Tian's strength was also very strong. As a person, he had his own principles and bottom line. Moreover, he was the Palace Master of the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. If he just watched Lu Ming being killed by Shangguan Wuchen, what would the other Imperial Sky Divine Guards think of him? How much prestige would he have left? How many people would trust him in the future? Mu Tian, are you really going to stop me? Shangguan Wuchen's face darkened. However, Mu Tian had no intention of stopping. The Mu clan was able to rise so quickly in the Tianxian domain because of their background. The Mu clan also had a background, but he did not want to use it unless he had no other choice. Brother Mu, if you want to find an opponent, I will accompany you. At this moment, Sheng Tsung stood up and an aura as deep as the sea erupted from his body. This aura shrouded Mu Tian. Mu Tian's face changed. Ha! Shangguan Wuchen sneered and continued to walk towards Lu Ming. Mu Tian's face darkened. However, Sheng Tsung's strength was not weaker than his. With Sheng Tsung holding him back, it would be difficult for him to help. You're just a lowly bastard, an ant. You want to stand shoulder to shoulder with a real dragon? Even if you have such thoughts, you will be punished with death. Shangguan Wuchen looked down at Lu Ming from a lofty position. His eyes were full of disdain. Obviously, he was comparing the sacred star to a real dragon and Lu Ming to an ant. The reason was that the sacred star had the blood of the Shangguan clan flowing in his body. Boom! Having said that, Shangguan Wuchen slapped towards Lu Ming. A palm print exuded a terrifying aura and pressed down on Lu Ming. The pressure was like an ocean, pressing down on Lu Ming. Extreme Dao Strike. At this moment, Lu Ming unleashed his full strength, including the bloodline of the 9 dragons. His essence, energy, and spirit were highly concentrated, transforming into a resplendent spear. This spear strike was Lu Ming's ultimate spear strike. It had reached Lu Ming's current strongest attack. Everyone only saw a spear light shoot up into the sky and collide with a palm print that was as vast as the sea. Then, endless light flashed. Countless pairs of eyes widened as they stared at the sky. Lu Ming was actually going to take the attack of a Sea of Soul Realm expert head-on. Would he be slapped to death? Boom! Amidst a shocking explosion, the resplendent spear light was shattered, and a figure fell to the ground like a meteor. Bang! 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 When Lu Ming landed on the ground, he first slid back a few hundred meters before retreating a few dozen steps. Every step he took caused the ground to rumble violently, as if a mountain had crashed down. If not for the fact that the ground of Tianxian City was incomparably tough and filled with inscriptions, there would have been dozens of craters by now. Puff! After retreating a few dozen steps, Lu Ming used his spear to support himself as he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His arm trembled incessantly, and he could no longer feel it. His entire body was in pain, and a layer of blood was faintly seeping out of his skin. Is this the power of a Sea of Soul Realm expert? It is indeed frightening. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. His strongest attack could easily kill a Peak King, and it had already far surpassed them. However, he was still heavily injured after taking the attack of a Sea of Soul Realm expert head-on. This was even with the protection of the Nine-Dragon bloodline, which had devoured a portion of the attack power. Moreover, he didn't even know how much power the opponent had used. Not dead. Shangguan Wuchen's eyes turned cold. Lu Ming's vitality had exceeded his expectations. Let's see how many moves you can take. The killing intent emitted from Shangguan Wuchen's body became even colder. Lu Ming. Mulan's shouted worriedly as she rushed toward Lu Ming. However, Shangguan Wuchen waved his hand, and a terrifying pressure descended on Mulan's, making it hard for her to move. On the other side, Mu Zheng and Mu Xiuyuan were also extremely worried. They wanted to help, but they were powerless against a Sea of Soul Realm expert. I can only use the lightning cauldron to fight. Lu Ming's eyes turned ruthless as he started to communicate with the lightning cauldron. To be honest, today's events were somewhat out of his expectations. Before this, he didn't know that the sacred star had such a strong background. He didn't expect that there would be a Sea of Soul Realm expert besides Xingcang and Mu Tian. He also didn't expect that the other party would be so strong as to kill him in front of everyone. However, even if Lu Ming knew about it, he would still do it. He would not back down. There were some things that couldn't be backed down. Backing down wasn't his character, nor was it his martial path. Kill. A cold word came out from Shangguan Wuchen's mouth. A terrifying palm print appeared once again and charged toward Lu Ming. Before the palm print arrived, a terrifying pressure had already locked onto Lu Ming. This palm print was much more terrifying than the previous one. There was no way to avoid it, so he could only take it head-on. Come on, even if I die, I'll make you suffer. The ruthlessness in Lu Ming's eyes intensified. Although the lightning cauldron was strong, Lu Ming wasn't confident that he could kill Shangguan Wuchen in one blow. However, he could at least severely injure the other party. Just as Lu Ming was about to take out the lightning cauldron and fight to the death, a rainbow light suddenly shot out from his body. The rainbow light condensed into a blurry figure in the sky. This figure slapped out a palm, and the heavens and the earth shook. Shangguan Wuchen's palm print, which was coming down, was slapped away without a trace. Is that Senior Yen? The sudden change caused Lu Ming to stop controlling the lightning cauldron and look at the blurry figure above his head. Although the figure was blurry, Lu Ming could still recognize that it was Yen Kuangtu. At this moment, everyone was stunned as they looked at the blurry figure above Lu Ming's head. Just a moment ago, they thought that Lu Ming was dead for sure. However, a powerful figure suddenly rushed out from his body and destroyed Shangguan Wuchen's palm print with a single slap. Many people couldn't react in time. This is, Mu Tian and Xingcang couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. Shangguan Wuchen's eyes flashed with a bright light, and it was extremely gloomy and cold as he said, "Little bastard, so there's an expert standing behind you. No wonder you're so arrogant. But let me tell you something. If my Shangguan clan wants to kill someone, then no one can save you. Kill." Shangguan Wuchen suddenly shouted and a battle sword appeared in his hand. Sword Chi soared into the sky. This battle sword was definitely a 6th-level spiritual weapon. It was extremely powerful and it rapidly grew in the sky. It became 100 feet long and slashed down at Lu Ming. The power of this sword strike was terrifying and shocking. Space trembled like water waves, and ripples appeared. However, the figure on top of Lu Ming's head slapped him again. Clang! The slap landed on the battle sword and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Everyone was dumbfounded as they saw Shangguan Wuchen's battle sword being sent flying. This scene was too terrifying. Chapter 610. What kind of existence is this? There's actually such an expert behind Lu Ming? At this moment, they couldn't help but reevaluate Lu Ming. This youth who came from a remote village in the eastern part of Tianxian domain wasn't as simple as they thought. His battle strength was unrivaled, and he even defeated a Saint Star expert. Now, there was an unknown expert behind him. How could such a background be simple? Sir, who are you? I'm the Heavenly Divine Palace's main palace, a direct descendant of the Shangguan clan. This is my Shangguan clan's matter. I hope you won't meddle in it. Shangguan Wuchen stared at the blurry figure above Lu Ming's head. However, that voice only stood there motionlessly and did not say anything. Second brother, attack. Continue attacking. This is just a figure with limited energy. Today, this little bastard must die. No matter who's behind him, we're Shangguan clan's disciples. How dare he touch us? Shangguan Wuling screamed. Sir, since you're determined to protect this kid, then you'll have to be prepared to go against my Shangguan clan. Shangguan Wuchen said again. Ha ha ha, go against your Shangguan clan. So what? Don't try to scare me with your bullshit Shangguan clan. At this moment, a loud laugh suddenly came from the sky. Everyone was shocked. Since when was there someone in the sky? Especially Shangguan Wuchen, Xing Tsang, and Mu Tian, the 3 Sea of Soul Realm experts. Their faces changed drastically. They couldn't even sense a trace of aura from a person who appeared above them. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the sky. Up in the sky, a figure was seated in the void, holding a gourd and gulping down wine. Senior Yen. Lu Ming shouted in joy. Sir, who are you? Although your cultivation is high and I admit that I'm no match for you, if you really want to offend my Shangguan clan for this kid, I'm afraid you'll bring unnecessary trouble to yourself. Shangguan Wuchen continued. His tone was still full of threats. However, he didn't notice that Xing Tsang, Mu Tian, Mu Yi, Mu Zheng, and the other elders of Tianxian domain were stunned. They looked at the figure in the sky with a complicated expression. Shangguan, let's forget about today's matter. At that moment, Xing Tsang spoke to Shangguan Wuchen. What? Shangguan Wuchen was stunned. Xing Tsang, what did you say? Today, the one who was seriously injured and humiliated is your own son. You actually want to give up? Are you even a man? Shangguan Wuling glared at Xing Tsang and shouted. Alright, I'm doing this for your own good. Xing Tsang said. Who is he? Asked Shangguan Wuchen. He felt that Xing Tsang should know him. He is Yan Kuangtu. Xing Tsang said with mixed feelings. He didn't lower his voice, so everyone could hear him. Silence. The scene suddenly quieted down. All eyes were fixed on the unruly figure in the sky. Yan Kuangtu. He was a legend in the Tianxian region, or even in the eastern wasteland. In the Tianxian region, there was no one who did not know about the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. He was a peerless genius who came out of the Tianxian region 100 years ago. Many elders had watched him grow, but most of them had never seen Yan Kuangtu before. At this moment, they opened their eyes wide and looked at the legendary figure. Slowly, many people became excited. They discussed excitedly and looked at the figure in the sky. Yan Kuangtu. Shangguan Wuchen's eyes were also filled with shock. Then, he recalled what he had just said and his face turned pale. What he had said might be useful to others, but it was useless to Yan Kuangtu. Who was Yan Kuangtu? What was his cultivation? Yan Kuangtu was an extremely powerful and lawless figure. Even the old ancestor of the Shangguan clan had to tremble with fear in front of Yan Kuangtu. With Shangguan Wuchen's status, it was impossible for him to meet Yan Kuangtu in the past. He also thought of some rumors about Yan Kuangtu. It was said that Yan Kuangtu was a lawless person. Once, when a super family offended Yan Kuangtu went straight to the super family and almost destroyed it. In the end, Martial Emperor De did not punish him. That super family's strength was even stronger than the Shangguan clan. The more he thought about it, the paler his face became. He could not help but break out in cold sweat. Lord Yan, what brings you here? Mu Tian flew up to the sky and cupped his fists. Mu Tian's seniority was higher than Yan Kuangtu's. When Yan Kuangtu was in the Tianxian region, he was already the palace master of the Tianxian palace. However, things were different now. Yan Kuangtu's status in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was much higher than his. When he saw Yan Kuangtu, he had to call him Lord. Lord Yan, you haven't returned to the Tianxian region for decades, right? Just in time, I'll ask someone to prepare a banquet to welcome you. Xingcang flew up to the sky and said with a smile. Hee hee. Yan Kuangtu drank 2 more mouthfuls of wine and said, Xingcang, don't try to get close to me. Are we close? Xingcang's face stiffened and he stood there awkwardly. When Yan Kuangtu was in the Tianxian region, he and the Xing family could be said to be mortal enemies. They were even fiercer than Lu Ming was now. Many people of the same generation as Yan Kuangtu in the Xing family had been beaten up by him and many of them had died in his hands. Back then, the Xing family had regarded Yan Kuangtu as a must-kill target. They had even forced Yan Kuangtu to leave the Tianxian region and go to other regions to gain experience. Later on, he had risen rapidly. Only then did the Xing family give up on him. Now, Yan Kuangtu was lucky that he did not kill them. Why would he care about them? Lord Yan, I didn't know it was you just now. Please forgive me. Shangguan Wuchen also flew up to the sky and said with fear and trepidation. You didn't know it was me? Hee hee, your Shangguan clan is truly arrogant. You want to bully the weak? Are you bullying my little brother Lu Ming because he has no background and no backing? If I wasn't prepared, he would have been killed by you. Yan Kuangtu sneered. No, I was just testing little brother Lu's strength. Shangguan Wuchen broke out in cold sweat. Second brother, what are you doing? We are the disciples of the Shangguan clan. Why should we be afraid of him? We must kill that little bastard today. Let's see what he dares to do to us. Shangguan Wuling screamed again. Little sister, shut up. Shangguan Wuchen was shocked and scolded. Shangguan Wuling had married into the Tianxian region and stayed there all year round. Although she had heard of Yan Kuangtu's reputation, she did not know how terrifying Yan Kuangtu was. She had never heard of Yan Kuangtu's battle achievements. Shangguan Wuchen was really afraid that Shangguan Wuling would anger Yan Kuangtu. Second brother, why are you so timid? Our Shangguan clan is not afraid of anyone. Kill that little bastard. I must skin him alive and make him regret hurting Xingqian. Shangguan Wuling looked like a crazy hag because she was so protective of her son. What a vicious woman. Chapter 611. Slap. A crisp sound was heard. Shangguan Wuling screamed as her body flew far away. One side of her face was swollen. Arg! How dare you hit me? Bastard! Trash! I'm going to tell my father that I'm going to kill you and your whole family. Shangguan Wuling screamed hysterically. Her hair was disheveled and she looked like a ghost. Whoosh! Yan Kuangtu's figure suddenly appeared in front of Shengguan Wuling. His eyes were cold and a terrifying murderous aura burst out. The murderous aura was unbelievably terrifying. As soon as the murderous aura was released, everyone felt like they were in Azura hell. There were mountains of corpses and seas of blood everywhere. It was cold. It was so cold that it penetrated into their bones and souls. Everyone's face turned pale. Shengguan Wuling, who was in the middle of the murderous aura, was stunned. Then, her face was filled with fear and her body trembled violently. "You're just a bitch. Killing you will only dirty my hands," Yan Kuangtu said indifferently. Then, he looked at the sky and said, "I won't interfere in the battle between the young ones. However, if you seniors want to bully the weak, then I don't mind bullying the weak." Bullying the weak. Overbearing and arrogant. If someone else said that, they would definitely be despised. However, it was reasonable for Yan Kuangtu to say that. This was strength. Yan Kuangtu had such strength. Today's battle is fair and Lu Ming is the winner. Therefore, the Xing family can get lost. The last word, get lost, was like a thunderclap. The sky rumbled and everyone's eardrums hurt. Although Xing Tsang, Shengguan Wuchen and the others were unwilling, they did not dare to say anything. They hurriedly brought the dazed Shengguan Wuling and the severely injured Xing Xingqian and the others away in a sorry state. In an instant, the people of the Xing family had all left. "Senior Yan, thank you for saving me." Lu Ming stepped forward and cupped his fists to express his gratitude. "Ha, you don't have to be so polite with me. Also, don't call me senior. I'm only 100 years old. I'm not that old. Call me Big Brother." Yan Kuangtu laughed. "Big Brother Yan," Lu Ming said. In fact, he and Yan Kuangtu were indeed of the same generation. Yan Kuangtu waved his hand and the blurry figure above Lu Ming disappeared. He looked at Lu Ming and then at Mullins. "Ha, good boy. I was wondering why you were in such a hurry. It turns out that you're here to snatch a beauty. Good, a real man should do this." Yan Kuangtu patted Lu Ming on the shoulder. "Mullins. Greet Senior Yan." Mullins walked towards Yan Kuangtu. "Yan. Let's do it today. Let's do it. You're two, and I. Let's. Of the day, the good. That's right. Today was supposed to be Lan, and Xing Xing's wedding, but you snatched it from us halfway. I'll leave Lan, to you then." Mu Tian also walked over. "Father, Senior Yan." Mullins shouted. A blush flashed across her beautiful face. Her beauty was unparalleled. Marry Senior Sister Mullins?" Lu Ming was stunned. The reason why he challenged Xing Xingqian was that Mullins said that she didn't want to marry Xing Xingqian. He just wanted to help Mullins. He never wanted to marry Mullins. Indeed, although Mullins was beautiful, he never wanted to marry her. "What? Lu Ming, you don't want to marry her?" Seeing Lu Ming's expression, Mu Tian's face darkened. Lu Ming was tongue-tied. At this moment, two figures involuntarily appeared in his mind. Xian Yanqing and Autumn Moon. He knew very well that Autumn Moon was interested in him. And Xian Yanqing. How was she now? She disappeared for so long. At this moment, for some reason, Xian Yanqing's figure became exceptionally clear in his mind. "Lu Ming, what is the meaning of this?" Mu Tian shouted coldly. His face was extremely gloomy. Today, Lu Ming snatched the bride and challenged Xing Xingqian. This matter would soon spread throughout the Tianxian domain. In the end, Lu Ming refused to marry Mullins. At that time, how would others look at Mullins? How would they look at him? Mullins's eyes flashed. She seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes dimmed and she said softly, "Father, don't misunderstand. I don't want to marry Xing Xinchen. That's why I asked Lu Ming for help. There's no other meaning. Moreover, Lu Ming is still young. He should focus on martial arts. Mu Tian looked at Mulins with a complicated expression. Senior Sister Mulins, I'm sorry. Lu Ming said apologetically. It wasn't that Mulins wasn't beautiful enough. It wasn't that Mulins wasn't good enough. To be honest, which man wouldn't be tempted by a woman like Mulins? It would be a lie to say that Lu Ming wasn't tempted. However, he really didn't want to marry her. Moreover, there were two people in his heart. Why are you apologizing? I should thank you today. From now on, I'm free. Mulan smiled sweetly. Her smile was brilliant and charming like a blooming flower. Her beauty was unparalleled. Father, Senior Yen, I'm a little tired. I'll go back and rest first. After saying that, Mulins turned and strode away. The moment she turned, Lu Ming saw the sadness in Mulins's eyes. Sigh. Lu Ming sighed. Yan Kuangtu rolled his eyes and thought, it seems that little brother Lu is also a romantic person. He has someone else in his heart. Thinking of this, Yan Kuangtu naturally didn't say a word. It was hard for outsiders to say anything about this kind of thing. Humph. Mu Tian looked coldly at Lu Ming and snorted. Then, he said to Yan Kuangtu, Lord Yan, it's been a long time since you returned to Tianxian domain. Why don't we go and have a drink? Well, it's time to have a good drink. Old man Mu, I remember that you have some good wine in your private collection. I've always wanted to drink it but couldn't. It's time to take it out. Yan Kuangtu laughed. Okay, this time, I'll definitely take it out. Mu Tian said. Brother Lu, do you want to have a drink together? This old man's private collection is really good. Yan Kuangtu looked at Lu Ming. I'd better not go. Lu Ming shook his head. For some reason, he felt a little guilty and didn't know how to face Mu Tian. Okay, then I'll leave first. As if seeing through Lu Ming's thoughts, Yan Kuangtu didn't say much and left with Mu Tian. At the scene, there was an uproar of excited discussion. What happened today was really full of twists and turns. It was beyond everyone's expectations. Lu Ming, who everyone thought was hiding and didn't dare to fight, appeared at the crucial moment. Moreover, he displayed terrifying strength and actually defeated the peerless genius Xing Xing. This was really terrifying. If Lu Ming broke through to the Peak King realm, how strong would his battle strength be? And just as Lu Ming won, Shangguan Wuchen made a move to kill Lu Ming. They never thought that the person standing behind Lu Ming was actually a legendary figure like Yan Kuangtu. In the end, the Xing family was completely defeated and retreated in a sorry state. Today's matter would soon spread throughout Tianxian domain. Chapter 612. The crowd slowly dispersed. Lu Ming, looks like you've hurt someone's heart. Mu Xiuyuan walked over in his white robe. Brother Mu, don't make fun of me. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Ha, Lu Ming, you don't have to think too much. Just like what Mulin said, you're still young. You should focus on martial arts. I'm really looking forward to seeing how far you can go in the future. Mu Xiuyuan sighed. When he first met Lu Ming hadn't become a challenger yet. He was still so young and weak and needed his guidance. But now, Lu Ming had left him in the dust. How long had it been? It was too fast. Maybe he's another Yan Kuangtu. Mu Xiuyuan sighed. Brother Mu, I'm going back to treat my injuries. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. All right, you should go back now. Mu Xiuyuan said. Lu Ming nodded and turned to leave. Lu Ming, you're such a fool. How could you reject such a beautiful lady? What a waste. It's such a pity. Dandan shouted and sighed on the way back. "Shut up, you perverted turtle." Lu Ming picked up Dandan and stuffed it into the Temple of Paragon. He didn't go to the 4th zone. Instead, he rented a house in the 1st zone. Sitting cross-legged in the room, Lu Ming took out a few healing pills and swallowed them. Then, he activated the true dragon battle art to heal his injuries. He had taken Shengguan Wuchen's attack head-on and was severely injured. The bones in his arm were broken and his muscles were torn in many places. However, Lu Ming's body was extremely strong and his vitality was incomparably strong. His body had been healing automatically when he was talking. Now, with the help of the pills, he recovered even faster. In the 4th zone, Mulins and Mu Xiuyuan stood side by side in a pavilion and looked into the distance. "Are you angry with him?" Mu Xiuyuan asked. "No." Mulins said calmly, "Feelings can't be forced. Lu Ming is indeed still young. He should prioritize martial arts. Actually, you should know that there is someone else in his heart." Mu Xiuyuan sighed. Mulins's eyes flashed, then she smiled sweetly and said, "I know, of course I know. But do you think I will lose? I've decided. I'm going to fight for it." "Compete?" Mu Xiuyuan stared blankly for a moment, then smiled and said, "Haha, now that's the Mulins I know. Speaking of which, Lu Ming is really outstanding. He can't be easily missed. If I were a woman, I would also fight for him. However, the gap between me and him is getting bigger and bigger. Therefore, I've decided to go to that place to cultivate. I can't be left behind by him too much." Mulins gazed into the distance. "Have you finally decided to go there to cultivate?" Mu Xiuyuan's eyes lit up. "That's right. Father arranged for me to go, but I didn't want to listen to him, so I didn't go. Now, it's time to go." Mulin sighed. "It's right for you to go there to cultivate. Otherwise, with your physique, it would be a waste. It's not too late to go now." Mu Xiuyuan said. Half a day later, Lu Ming's injuries had already healed. His 7th-grade body displayed a super-strong self-healing ability. The Sea of Soul realm is indeed powerful. I wonder what level of Sea of Soul realm Shengguan Wuchen is at, and how much power did he use? Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Lu Ming estimated that Shengguan Wuchen shouldn't be too high in the Sea of Soul realm. Otherwise, even a casual palm was not something he could block. When I break through to the Peak King level, I wonder if I can fight with a Sea of Soul realm expert. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. However, what he needed to do now was to forge a spiritual spear. That high-grade 5th-grade Wind Thunder spear had cracked after receiving a palm from Shengguan Wuchen during the battle with the Saint Star. With Lu Ming's current explosive power, a 5th-grade spiritual weapon was not very useful. Immediately, Lu Ming got up and walked toward Old Huang's residence. "Nestle, Lu Ming, you bastard, don't stuff me into that damn place." Dandan's voice suddenly sounded. It had appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder again, panting. "Nestle." Lu Ming was shocked. This guy could actually run out of the Temple of Paragon by itself. Don't you know who I am? I'm the leader of the top 10 battle beasts. I've existed for countless years, and my inscription skills have already reached a level that can shock the heavens and make ghosts cry. How can a mere Temple of Paragon trap me? I'm so tired." Dandan boasted shamelessly while lying on Lu Ming's shoulder with its shell down and panting. "Keep bragging. A person who often fails to carve an inscription, no, a tortoise. How can you say that your inscription skills can shock the heavens and make ghosts cry?" Lu Ming said with disdain. "Kid, what do you know? If I wasn't injured." A man and a tortoise bickered, and soon, they arrived at Old Huang's residence. Lu Ming walked in directly. Old Huang, Junior Lu Ming is here to visit." Lu Ming said loudly. Clang! Clang! In one of the rooms, there was a clattering sound. Then, an old man with messy hair rushed out of the room. "Ha, Lu Ming, you're finally back. I thought you were dead. How was it? Did you bring back the 1,000 refined blood gold?" Old Huang grinned and looked at Lu Ming. "I brought it back." Lu Ming waved his hand and the 1,000 refined blood gold appeared in his hand. This is enough. Sigh, it's a pity for Xian Long." Old Huang sighed. It was obvious that Old Huang had received the news of the blacksmith sect's destruction. Lu Ming sighed inwardly, but he didn't say anything. "Alright, there's no need to think too much about other things. During this time, I've been studying the inscriptions on the broken spear you gave me. I've learned a lot. I've already extracted the infinite black gold from the broken spear. I can start refining it now, but it will take 3 days. 3 days later, come and get it." Old Huang said. "Alright, I'll have to trouble you then." Lu Ming handed the 1,000 refined blood gold to Old Huang. "Alright, go ahead." Old Huang took the 1,000 refined blood gold and rushed into the room. Lu Ming smiled. This Old Huang was truly an eccentric. This old man is just an ordinary inscriber. He's not even a true inscriber, so he probably can't refine any good spiritual weapons. Dandin muttered. Lu Ming was speechless. This guy really knew how to brag. Elder Huang was the top inscription master in the Tianxian region. Moreover, how could it be so easy to find a true inscriber? It was too difficult to become a true inscriber, and the requirements were too high. Lu Ming strolled through the streets. Soon, he arrived at the courtyard that Mulans had given him half a year ago. Sitting cross-legged in the room, Lu Ming quietly comprehended the concept of lightning. As long as he broke through to the first level of perfection, he would be able to easily cultivate the other 2 concepts to the first level. With enough resources, Lu Ming would be able to break through to the peak stage king realm. Chapter 613. Brother Yan, are you leaving? Yan Kuangtu came to bid farewell to Lu Ming. Yan Kuangtu nodded and said, "I have seen what I should see. I will leave soon." After pondering for a while, Yan Kuangtu looked at Lu Ming with anticipation in his eyes and said, "I will wait for you at the main palace for the Battle of Providence." Battle of Providence? Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. "Why? You don't know about the Battle of Providence?" Yan Kuangtu asked. "I have heard of it, but I don't know much about it," Lu Ming said. He had heard about it from Fei Xue before. "Lu Ming, the Battle of Providence is very important. All the geniuses in the Eastern Barren Territory will participate, including the monster race. Not only can you help your force to fight for endless providence, but you can also help yourself to fight for great providence. With your talent, you might be able to stand out in the Battle of Providence. Back then, I also participated in the Battle of Providence to achieve what I have today." Yan Kuangtu explained. "You can fight for providence?" Lu Ming was a little shocked. "Providence, isn't it just like luck? It's innate. It's mysterious. How can you fight for it?" "Of course." Yan Kuangtu nodded and said, "There is a saying, man can conquer nature. Luck also depends on the man. Therefore, providence can also be fought for. Talent, hard work, resources, and perseverance are very important for a martial artist. However, providence is also very important. Only those with great luck can become peak experts. Your luck is not weak, but if you don't participate in the battle of luck, you will be pulled apart by the other geniuses. From then on, you will be reduced to a foil, unable to become the bright star of this era. In the future, it will be difficult for you to become a peak expert of the continent. Therefore, this time, all the geniuses in the Eastern Barren Territory will participate. No one will miss it. The Battle of Providence? Lu Ming was looking forward to it, but he was a little hesitant. Because the Battle of Providence required him to go to the headquarters of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. That would be too close to martial Emperor De. Would the 9 Dragons bloodline be sensed? Also, if he represented the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace in the Battle of Providence, it would be equivalent to helping the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace fight for Great Providence. Luck was also extremely important to a large faction. If a faction was lucky enough, they would be able to recruit even more geniuses as disciples. The next generation of experts would be endless, and their strength would also become stronger and stronger. Lu Ming was going to go against the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace sooner or later. He didn't want to help the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace increase their luck. Lu Ming, there are still 2 years before the Battle of Providence. In these 2 years, you should improve your strength as soon as possible. I'll be waiting for you in the Central Palace. As soon as Yan Kuangtu finished speaking, his figure flickered and disappeared in an instant. He was elusive. The War of Providence. As Lu Ming repeated this sentence, there was a thoughtful look in his eyes. Participate, I will definitely participate. Retreating is not my martial path. I don't have much time left. Only by having an intense collision with the geniuses of the world can my cultivation and martial path advance bravely. Only then can my cultivation improve even faster. If I retreat and hide in a place to cultivate, my martial path will improve very slowly. When the 10 years are up, I will still have to face martial monarch De. I might as well give it a try. After a while, Lu Ming's eyes emitted a strong battle intent and a firm will. He decided to participate in the Battle of Providence. Although he had a lot of resources now, such as a pile of profound crystals, his cultivation would improve very quickly. That was only for martial kings. After breaking through martial kings and reaching the Spirit Sea realm, the resources he would need would be even more terrifying. The resources he had were not enough. The higher his cultivation, the harder it would be to improve his cultivation. The resources he would need would be even more terrifying. He wasn't going to be blinded by this little achievement in front of him. After making up his mind, Lu Ming no longer felt pressured. He only felt an indomitable sharpness. Then, he continued to cultivate. One day later, in a hall of the Sheng clan, Sheng Tsang, Sheng Xingqian, Shengguan Wuqian, and Shengguan Willing sat. After 2 days of cultivation, Sheng Xingqian's injuries were much better. He was almost fully recovered. Damn it, that little bastard deserves to die, and that Yan Kuangtu deserves to die too. Shengguan Wuling screamed with murderous intent. She was slapped by Yan Kuangtu in public, which almost drove her crazy. Her murderous intent was extremely strong. Little sister, Yan Kuangtu is not someone we can provoke. Even the old ancestor is no match for him. It's better not to say such things. Shengguan Wuqian said beside her. Second brother, are we just going to let it go like this? Shengguan Wuling said. Of course not. We can't deal with Yan Kuangtu, but we can't let that little bastard Lu Ming go. Shengguan Wuqian's eyes flickered with murderous intent. Yes, it's all that little bastard's fault. It's all his fault. If it weren't for him, things wouldn't have turned out like this. Shengguan Wuling was filled with murderous intent. Since she couldn't deal with Yan Kuangtu, she could only vent all her anger on Lu Ming. There are only 2 years left until the Battle of Providence. At that time, there will be plenty of opportunities to kill that little bastard. Shengguan Wuqian said coldly, then looked at Xing Xing and said, Xing, come with me to the main palace to cultivate. It's best that you take revenge by cutting off Lu Ming's head. I will cut off his head myself. Xing Xing's eyes were extremely cold as he clenched his fists. Let's go to the main palace together. Anyway, there are only 2 years left until the Battle of Providence. At that time, we will definitely go. Xing Tsang said. Okay, then let's go to the main palace together. Shengguan Wuqian nodded. In the blink of an eye, the 3-day deadline with Elder Huang had arrived. Lu Ming left the courtyard and went to Elder Huang's residence. Elder Huang. Walking into the courtyard, Lu Ming called out softly. Whoosh! A figure appeared in front of Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, you're here. The spear you wanted has been refined. Take a look. Elder Huang took out a spear and threw it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming reached out and caught it. It's so heavy. When Lu Ming caught it, he felt that it was incomparably heavy. It weighed more than 1,000,000 pounds. Of course, with Lu Ming's current strength, there was no pressure to use it. Lu Ming looked at it carefully. The blood-red spearhead was made of indestructible steel. It was well-defined and gave off an indestructible feeling. The body of the spear was dark red, mainly made of 1,000 refined blood gold. There were some strange patterns engraved on it. There were also some black dots scattered all over the spear. Lu Ming took a liking to her at first glance. Buzz! Lu Ming injected his true yuan and waved it slightly. The spear vibrated, causing a wave of air. Lu Ming, the tip of the spear is forged from indestructible steel. It is sturdy and indestructible. As for the body of the spear, it is mainly made of 1,000 refined blood gold and contains infinite black gold. In the future, as long as you have precious metals, you can refine them, and this long spear will continue to evolve and upgrade to a higher level spirit weapon. Chapter 6:14. Many thanks, Elder Huang. Lu Ming was already very satisfied. He kept his spear and expressed his gratitude to Elder Huang. Go. I've benefited a lot from studying your broken spear this time. I'm going to enter seclusion and comprehend it well. Elder Huang waved his hand. Lu Ming nodded and bowed. He then left and returned to his courtyard. With a move of his hand, a dark red spear appeared. Lu Ming began to brandish it. The spear was like a dragon, dancing in the air. The entire sky was filled with resplendent spear light. After a while, Lu Ming kept his spear and stood there. It's indeed a good spear. The circulation of true origin energy is extremely smooth. Moreover, I can erupt with true origin energy as much as I want. It's very helpful for me to unleash my strength. Lu Ming was very satisfied. With this spear, Lu Ming's battle prowess had increased again. Let's give this spear a name. What should I call it? Since it's based on the infinite black gold and can evolve infinitely, I'll call it the Infinite Spear. No, the Infinite Dragon Spear. Yes, this name sounds good. Lu Ming muttered. He looked at the spear in his hand and grinned. So fucking cliché. Dandin said in disdain. Hey, are you itching for a beating? How is this cliché? The Infinite Dragon Spear is so domineering. Lu Ming brandished the spear in his hand. It's just an upper grade level, 6 spirit weapon. Ming has just passed the refinement. What's there to be happy about? I've already said that the old man's skills are bad. The materials used were good, but they were ruined by him. If it was me, TSK, hey, why are you looking at me like that? I'm a guy, and my hobbies are normal. I don't have any bad hobbies. Dandin began to boast shamelessly again. As it spoke, it saw Lu Ming looking at it with a burning gaze. It was so scared that its head immediately shrank back into its shell, leaving only its mouth open to mutter. Lu Ming carefully sized up Dandin. His eyes turned and he said, Dandin, you always say that you're a peerless expert, the head of the 10 strongest beasts. Since you're so powerful, teach me some peerless martial arts. For example, divine-level martial arts. How about giving me 8 or 10 books? So you're here for this matter. Dandin's head popped out of the tortoise shell again. It stood upright on Lu Ming's shoulder and placed its 2 claws on the tortoise shell. It had the demeanor of a peerless expert. Is there really one? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. His heart was pounding. If Dandan really had divine-level martial arts, not to mention 8 or 10 books, even 1 or 2 books would be enough to make him rich. Now, Lu Ming felt that his offensive martial arts were a little too simple. Although the 9 Dragons' Heaven stomping steps was powerful, it was difficult to cultivate. In battle, it belonged to the category of explosive martial arts. It lacked some changes. If the opponent was prepared early, they could dodge it. The same was true for the 3 unique skills of the Dragon God. They belonged to the category of explosive martial arts. They were extremely powerful and could kill with one blow. However, they lacked changes. If the other party could block his attack, Lu Ming would have fewer tricks up his sleeves. This was also what he had felt during the 2 battles with Qin Qing Shan and the Sacred Star. Lu Ming needed to cultivate some other martial arts to assist him. After all, only 1 or 2 martial arts were too few. If Dandan could give him a few, it would be perfect. No. Dandan opened its mouth. 2 short words extinguished the fire in Lu Ming's heart. Nestling, if you don't have it, why are you so cocky? You liar. You only know how to brag. Lu Ming was unhappy and looked at Dandan with disdain. Hey, kid, what's with your expression? I can't remember because I'm injured. Otherwise, not to mention 8 or 10 divine-level martial arts, I can even take out 100 books. Humph. Dandan said unhappily. However, Lu Ming's disdain grew thicker. He obviously did not believe Dandan's words. How could Lu Ming believe it? 100 divine-level martial arts. Did he think they were cabbages that could be found by the roadside? You're infuriating me to death. Brat, let me tell you, although I can't remember the martial skills, I still remember the inscription Tao very clearly. I have a peerless inscription Tao here, as well as a top-notch cultivation method for cultivating spirit flames. Do you want me to teach you the inscription Tao? I want you to be convinced. Dandan was so angry that its eyes were wide open and its tortoise shell was moving up and down. Path of inscription. Lu Ming's eyes flickered a little. It took a lot of thought and energy to cultivate martial arts. Wouldn't it take even more energy to cultivate the path of inscription? Lu Ming was a little hesitant. Moreover, the path of inscription was only auxiliary. It did not increase one's combat strength by much. Hey, kid, do you think that the path of inscription can't increase one's combat strength by much? You're really inexperienced. Let me tell you, none of the inscription masters you've seen are qualified. They all cultivate casually and are only auxiliary martial arts. None of them are true inscription masters. If you become a true inscription master, once you reach the 5th level, your combat strength will be terrifying. Martial artists of the same level won't be able to withstand a single blow. In the ancient times, the path of inscription was prosperous. It was the main path of cultivation and even suppressed martial arts. To true inscription masters, challenging those of a higher level is a common thing. Dandan glared and lectured. Are true inscription masters that strong? Lu Ming was skeptical. Nonsense, of course. True inscription masters can inscribe auxiliary inscriptions, combat inscriptions, explosive inscriptions, divine weapon inscriptions and so on. They can even inscribe a peerless killing formation in an instant and kill the enemy invisibly. It's extremely powerful and mysterious. It's beyond your imagination. What do you think? Do you want to learn it? I have a top-notch cultivation method for the spirit flame here. If this cultivation method were to be made known to the public, it would definitely lead to an earth-shattering outcome. Not to mention martial emperors, even stronger existences would fight for it. Dandan said proudly. Okay, how do I learn it? Hearing Dandan's words, Lu Ming was also tempted. Give me some jade talismans first. You don't have any foundation in the path of inscription. I'll inscribe some basic things, the spirit fire cultivation method, and the method to ignite the spirit fire. I'll show you first so that you'll have an idea. Dandan said seriously, which was rare for him. Lu Ming nodded. With a wave of his hand, he took out a dozen sparkling jade talismans and threw them to Dandan. Dandan opened his mouth and the jade talismans all flew into Dandan's mouth and disappeared. Dandan's mouth was like a bottomless pit. Lu Ming saw that he swallowed everything into his mouth and took it out from his mouth. Okay, I'm going to inscribe. You can cultivate in peace. Wait for me for a few days. Dandan jumped into a room and disappeared. Lu Ming continued his cultivation. 5 days later, Dandan appeared and climbed onto Lu Ming's shoulder. He threw a dozen jade talismans to Lu Ming and said, "Everything is inside. Take a look at it yourself." Ouch, I'm so tired. Hurry up, since I'm so diligent, give me a few stalks of elixirs. Lu Ming was speechless. He casually took out a few stalks of 5th-grade elixirs and threw them to Dandan to send him away. He then went into the room and looked at the jade talismans. He placed the jade talismans on his forehead and understood the contents of the jade talismans. The jade talismans contained some basic knowledge about the path of inscription, which was extremely complicated. Lu Ming closed his eyes and slowly digested the information. Chapter 6:15. It turns out that the inscription Tao is so complicated and mysterious. Its history is so ancient that it's even more ancient than the martial Tao. Lu Ming muttered in a low voice. He was a little shocked. In the past, he thought that the inscription Tao only existed to support the martial Tao. It seemed like he was gravely mistaken. The Desolate Era was an era that was even older than the Ancient Era, and the Immemorial Era. When the human race first appeared, there was no martial Tao. The human race comprehended a kind of pattern based on the traces of the world and the momentum of the mountains and rivers. This pattern was the earliest inscription Tao. In the end, it developed and became a great Tao. The inscription Tao was one of the oldest great Taos in the world. The inscription Tao could be used to refine weapons, refine pills, inscribe formations, and so on. If one wanted to practice the inscription Tao, first, one had to ignite the spirit fire in the sea of consciousness. The spirit fire was also known as the inscription fire. Only by igniting the spirit fire could one officially step into the inscription Tao. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, silver, and gold. The inscription masters were divided into 9 levels. The color of the spirit fire of each level was different. The spirit fire of the first level was red. The spirit fire of the second level was orange. Based on this logic, the spiritual fire of a 9th-grade inscriber was golden in color. Every person, at every level, had 10 spirit lamps in their sea of consciousness. The more spirit lamps that were lit, the stronger the spirit fire. The spirit fire was the foundation of an inscription master. The stronger the spirit fire, the stronger and more precise the inscription master's control. Generally speaking, if one could ignite 3 spirit lamps at each level, one would be able to advance. For example, if a level 1 inscription master ignited 3 red spirit lamps, he would be able to advance and break through. The color of his spirit fire would change to orange and he would ignite an orange spirit lamp. After cultivating and igniting 3 orange spirit lamps, he would be able to continue breaking through. However, this kind of inscription master was an ordinary inscription master. Their main purpose was to support the martial Tao. They were the inscription masters that Lu Ming often saw. Only by igniting 6 or more spirit lamps at each level could one be considered a pure inscription master and be called a true inscription master. Of course, if one could light up 10 mind lamps at each level, then they would be perfect. They would be the strongest inscriber. However, according to Dandan, it was too difficult to ignite 10 spirit lamps. There were very few of them. Once an inscription master reached level 5, he would be extremely powerful. This jade token only contains some basic knowledge and general knowledge. Look at the rest. There are also some introductions on how to cultivate. There are also some low-level inscriptions that I have collected and controlled. Boy, I will let you have a good look. On his shoulder, Dandan chewed on the elixir as it spoke proudly. Lu Ming took out another jade tablet and placed it between his eyebrows. This piece of jade contained all the records of first-level inscriptions. There were hundreds of thousands of them. Lu Ming felt dazzled. After half a day, Lu Ming picked up another jade card. This jade card also had a first-level inscription. Then, 6 or 7 jade plates in a row, all of which were level 1 inscriptions. In total, there were more than 3 million types of inscriptions. Lu Ming was shocked. Even if he had never eaten pork, he had never seen a pig run. Although Lu Ming was not an inscriber, he still had some general knowledge. Although the first-level inscriptions were the lowest-level inscriptions, they were also the most numerous. It was already considered good for an inscriber to master a few hundred types. However, there were more than 3 million types here. This was simply terrifying. Then, Lu Ming continued to look. After that, there were level 2 inscriptions and level 3 inscriptions. Dandan did not inscribe any level 4 inscriptions. There were more than 1 million level 2 inscriptions and more than 600,000 level 3 inscriptions. The number was astonishing. How is it? I have lived for countless years and have come into contact with countless inscriptions. Now, do you believe me? Seeing Lu Ming's shocked expression, Dandan was very happy and proud. This time, Lu Ming did not attack Dandan. This guy had mastered so many inscriptions. Maybe what it said was true. The last jade token contained a cultivation technique. It was a cultivation technique for cultivating the spiritual fire. The cultivation method was called the underworld observation. Lu Ming comprehended it for a while and opened his eyes. Boy, how is it? Isn't this mind cultivation method enough to startle the heavens and make ghosts and gods weep? Dandan immediately asked proudly. Lu Ming shook his head and said, I don't feel anything. You don't feel anything? You really don't know what's good for you. Dandan curled its lips and said, well, you haven't started cultivating yet, so you can't experience the wonders of this cultivation method. Let me tell you, if this cultivation method is leaked, even a martial emperor will hunt you down. All the inscribers in the world will hunt you down. Is it that serious? Lu Ming was skeptical. Nonsense, do you think I would lie? Boy, you don't have a fire seed now. Wait until you find one, light the spiritual fire and start cultivating. Then you will know the benefits. Also, let me tell you, if you want to cultivate the path of inscription, you must be careful with your fire seed. It must be strong. If you light the spiritual fire with an ordinary flame, it will have a great impact on your future cultivation. The higher the level of the fire seed, the stronger it will be. You will be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort when cultivating in the future. Moreover, the spiritual fire will also be stronger. It will be of great help to you whether you are refining weapons, refining pills, or inscribing inscriptions. Dandan warned. Lu Ming nodded. Since he was going to cultivate, he had to cultivate in the best direction. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste of time? He planned to light the spiritual fire when he found a satisfactory fire seed. For the time being, he would put the matter of inscription aside. After that, he continued to comprehend the thunder conception. 3 days later, Mu Xiuyuan found him and told him that Mulins had left for a secret place far away to cultivate. Lu Ming let out a sigh in his heart. He knew that Mulins was most likely still mad at him. Otherwise, why would she not say goodbye to him? He could tell that Mulins was interested in him. How could he not be interested in Mulins? However, there was still someone in his heart that he could not let go of. Mu Xiuyuan left after saying a few words. Lu Ming fell into deep thought. Let's not think about it for now. My priority now is to improve my strength. I'll think about it after I defeat Martial Dominator DE. It's time to go back. Lu Ming planned to return to the Lu clan and heal Lu Yuntian's injuries with the life stream. The next day, Lu Ming left Tianxian City and headed east at a rapid speed. Lu Ming's speed was terrifying. He arrived at the Eastern Branch Palace in just 5 days. Lu Ming is back. The moment Lu Ming entered the Eastern Branch Palace, the news of his return spread across the Eastern Branch Palace. The teleportation was extremely fast. The news of Lu Ming defeating the Sacred Star had spread to the Eastern Branch Palace. Countless people rushed out to greet Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's figure flashed and avoided the crowd, appearing outside the Eastern Sky Courtyard. Chapter 616. Palace Master. Lu Ming called out. It was Mu Zheng, the palace master of the Eastern Palace. It turned out that Mu Zheng had already returned to the Eastern Palace. Lu Ming, I knew you would come here. Mu Zheng said with a smile. Palace Master, please have a seat inside. Lu Ming said with a smile. Mu Zheng nodded and the two walked into the East Sky Courtyard. Lu Ming, what are you going to do next? Mu Zheng asked as the two sat down in the courtyard. I plan to go home first. After some time, I will go to other regions to train. 2 years later, I will participate in the Battle of Providence. Lu Ming did not mention Huang. Instead, he told Mu Zheng about his plan. Well, it turns out that you already know about the Battle of Providence. It seems that Yan Kuangtu told you about it. I wanted to tell you about it too. It is very important for you. If you can win the Battle of Providence, you may reach Yan Kuangtu's height in the future. You may even surpass him and become the new legend of Tianxian Domain. Mu Zheng looked at Lu Ming with bright eyes full of expectation. Lu Ming smiled and did not say much. The legend of Tianxian Domain? To be honest, he did not care. By the way, Palace Master, I have something to ask you. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and asked. Oh. What is it? Mu Zheng said. Immediately, Lu Ming asked Mu Zheng about Elder Zhuang's family. When they were on their way to Tianxian City and were besieged by the people of the Heavenly Corpse sect, old Zhuang gave him his storage ring before he died. Lu Ming had once said that he would pass his storage ring to his family. Well, I will go back and send someone to investigate. I will give you the news tomorrow. Mu Zheng nodded. After chatting with Lu Ming for a while, he bade farewell and left. The next day, Mu Zheng sent news that Elder Zhuang did have a family living in Myriad Star City. They had a son and a daughter. Lu Ming immediately went to Myriad Star City. In the north of Myriad Star City, there was a small courtyard. The weeping willows outside were fluttering in the wind. It was quite elegant. But at this moment, it was disrupted by a discordant scene. A group of people gathered in front of the courtyard. Bastard, don't even think about taking my sister away. A furious roar was heard. The voice came from an 18 or 19-year-old young man. The young man was tall and sturdy, with a simple and honest appearance. At this moment, his face was filled with anger, and his eyes were fixed on an elegant middle-aged man in front of him. Behind the young man, there was a 16 or 17-year-old girl. She was pretty and sweet, and her figure was curvaceous. She was a rare beauty. At this moment, the young girl was also glaring at the middle-aged man with anger. The young man's name was Zhuang Shaoshan, and the young girl's name was Zhuang Xiaoro. Their father was old Zhuang, who had gone to the Tianxian domain with Lu Ming and was ambushed and killed by the Heavenly Corpse sect. As for the scholarly middle-aged man that they were glaring at, his name was Yao Gu, and he was a good friend of their father. He was also an Empyrean Divine Guard of the Empyrean Divine Palace, and his cultivation was on par with old Zhuang's. When old Zhuang was still around, Yao Gu and old Zhuang were very close. He also took good care of Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro. Who would have thought that after old Zhuang got into trouble, Yao Gu would reveal his beastly side. He actually wants Zhuang Xiaoro to be his concubine. Hee, little brat, do you think you can stop me? Let me tell you, when your father went to the Tianxian domain, he borrowed a middle LV5 spiritual weapon from me. Although he is dead, the spiritual weapon still needs to be returned. Either you hand over the spiritual weapon, or you let your sister be my concubine and serve me well. Then, I will let the matter of the spiritual weapon go. Yao Gu laughed coldly, and his eyes scanned Zhuang Xiaoro's body without restraint, and they were filled with passion. He had been eyeing Zhuang Xiaoro's beauty for a long time, but he could not do it when old Zhuang was around. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro's faces turned pale. The two of them were martial grand masters. How could they take out a middle LV5 spiritual weapon? I will return the middle LV5 spiritual weapon to you. I will work hard to cultivate and earn spiritual crystals to buy a spiritual weapon for you. Don't take my sister away, don't take Xiaoro away. Zhuang Xiaoshan stood in front of Zhuang Xiaoro and said. How long do I have to wait for you to return it? 10 years? 20 years? 50 years? Perhaps you will not be able to take out a middle LV5 spiritual weapon in your entire life. Alright, move away. I know your father, and I do not want to trouble you. Yao Gu laughed coldly. But Zhuang Xiaoshan stood there stubbornly, staring at Yao Gu angrily. Yao Gu frowned. Brat, Master Yao has given you face, but you do not know how to appreciate it. You are looking for death. Piss off. A man with a scar on his face scolded as he walked forward and threw out a slap toward Zhuang Xiaoshan. Zhuang Xiaoshan bit on his teeth, and a long spear appeared in his hand, stabbing toward the man's palm. Little bastard, you are only a 9th-level martial grand master, and you dare to fight back. You overestimate yourself. The man sneered viciously as he turned his palm into a claw. Zhen Qi exploded as he grabbed onto Zhuang Xiaoshan's long spear and shook it. This man with a scar on his face was a half-step king warrior, which was thousands of miles more powerful than Zhuang Xiaoshan. With that shake, his Zhen Qi exploded, and the long spear shook. Zhuang Xiaoshan screamed as his body was blown away, crashing into the wall of the yard, shattering it completely. Blood poured out of Zhuang Xiaoshan's mouth. Brother! Zhuang Xiaoro screamed as she rushed in front of Zhuang Xiaoshan with tears in her eyes. Xiaoro, go! Go! Zhuang Xiaoshan yelled. Go! Where do you want to go? Stop dreaming. The man walked forward with big steps as he laughed coldly. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro looked desperate. Little beauty, it is your fortune that Master Yao likes you. Go back and serve Master Yao well. If you serve him well, you will have a good life. The man sneered as he reached out his hand toward Zhuang Xiaoro. Bastard, piss off. Zhuang Xiaoshan roared as he struggled to get up. But he was already badly wounded, and the bones in one of his arms were broken as well. He could not use any power at all. Zhuang Xiaoro roared as she tried her best to resist. She shot out a few rays of light. However, she was only a 5th-layer martial master, far weaker than the scar-faced man. She was easily defeated by the scar-faced man. He grabbed her by the shoulder and poured his Zhen Qi into her. Zhuang Xiaoro's Zhen Qi was sealed and she could not resist at all. Brother! Zhuang Xiaoro screamed as tears flowed down her face. Xiaoro! Zhuang Xiaoshan roared as he struggled to get up. But the man kicked him, and he was sent flying far away as he coughed out blood. Yao Gu waved his fan as he watched with a cold smile. There were some residents around, but no one said a word. Myriad Star City was too big, and no one knew how many people there were. Things like this happened every day. The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace could not manage all of them. Moreover, most of the people in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace were in the outside world. Myriad Star City was just a transit city. Moreover, Yao Gu was a 4th grade Martial King realm lower tier Martial King. In Myriad Star City, he was a peak existence. Who would dare to offend him? Hee, let's go back and serve Master Yao well. Chapter 617. This chick is really pretty and has a great figure. If Master Yao is tired of her, he might reward me with her in the future. Hee. The scar-faced man thought happily. The reason why he was so enthusiastic was because of this thought. In the past, Yao Gu would reward his subordinates with women that he was tired of playing with. Behind Yao Gu, the others gritted their teeth and looked at the scar-faced man with envy. They regretted not moving faster and letting that guy beat them to it. You better let go of your filthy hands immediately. At this moment, an extremely cold voice rang out. The voice was like the winter snow, chilling to the bone. A young man in his 20s slowly walked over. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He was naturally Lu Ming. After he got old Zhuang's address and the situation of his family, he immediately rushed over. However, he encountered this scene. The scar-faced man looked at Lu Ming and sneered, "Kid, are you talking to me? I'll give you 3 breaths of time to let go of your filthy hands. Otherwise, die." 1. Lu Ming said coldly. Ha, kid, you're very arrogant. However, arrogance requires skill. The scar-faced man laughed loudly. 2. Lu Ming continued to speak coldly. The scar-faced man's expression changed as he shouted angrily, "Kid, do you know who my master is? My master is a lower-tier king and a level 3 Empyrean Divine Guard. You better behave yourself." 3. Lu Ming spat out the word 3 coldly and said, "Time's up. You don't have a chance anymore." Whoosh! As soon as he finished his words, Lu Ming's figure disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in front of the burly man with a scar. He grabbed the burly man with a scar by the throat and lifted him up high. The scar-faced burly man's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. He could not exert any strength in his body. There was fear in his eyes. Just now, he did not even have time to react. Lu Ming's speed was too fast. Naturally, he let go of Zhuang Xiaorou's shoulder. "Brother!" Zhuang Xiaorou hurriedly ran to Zhuang Xiaoshan's side to check on his injuries. "Xiaorou, I'm fine." Zhuang Xiaoshan struggled to get up and looked at Lu Ming with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Who is this young man? Is he father's friend? Why haven't I heard father mention it before? Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou both looked at Lu Ming and thought. "Lord Yao, save me, save me." The scarred man hissed. At this moment, Yao Gu's expression was a little solemn. Just now, he did not see clearly how Lu Ming attacked. "Stop shouting. Today, no one can save you. Go on your way." Lu Ming said coldly. No. The scar-faced man screamed in horror. His hands clawed and his feet kicked, as if he was trying to grasp onto a glimmer of hope. But in Lu Ming's hands, he was like a little chick, unable to resist at all. Kacha! Lu Ming exerted force and broke the scar-faced man's neck. The scar-faced man's screams stopped abruptly. "Brat, how dare you kill someone in the Myriad Star City? Men, quickly inform the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's law enforcement team to take down this evil demon." Yao Gu shouted. The reason why he did not say anything earlier was that he was waiting for Lu Ming to kill the scar-faced man. This way, he would have an excuse to call the law enforcement team. In the Myriad Star City, it was fine to injure or even cripple someone. But killing someone was not allowed. One would be punished by the law enforcement team of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. This was the rule. Sometimes, one did not need to use force to deal with a person. One just needed to use one's brain. Yao Gu thought proudly. As for sacrificing the scar-faced man's life, what was that? He was just a dog. Now, it's your turn. Lu Ming did not seem to know that he had committed a serious crime. He looked at Yao Gu and the rest coldly, emitting a murderous intent. Yao Gu's expression changed and he shouted angrily, "Brat, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to kill us? You've committed a serious crime. You're a lunatic and evil demon. You scum will be a scourge if you stay in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. All of you must die." Lu Ming walked forward and said coldly, "Brat, do you think you're so great after killing a half-step king? I'll cripple you." A burly man of the martial king realm jumped out and threw a punch at Lu Ming. This punch carried the intent of mountains. It was like a burly man smashing at Lu Ming with shocking power. Bang! The next moment, he was sent flying by Lu Ming's kick. He fell to the ground tens of meters away, no longer breathing. He was dead. "Brat, you've killed another person. You're dead." Yao Gu shouted. "You talk too much." Lu Ming shouted coldly and flicked his finger. Whoosh! 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 More than 10 spear lights shot out. Then, more than 10 screams were heard. Yao Gu's lackeys, whether they were below the martial king realm or above, were all nailed to the ground by the spear lights. Only Yao Gu was left alive. Hiss, gasps could be heard from the surrounding onlookers. In their eyes, this young man was too ruthless. He did not show any mercy and killed more than 10 people in the Myriad Star City. Was he not afraid of the punishment of the law enforcement team? Or had he killed one person and decided to go all out? Yao Gu's face turned pale and there was a trace of fear in his eyes. Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiao's eyes were filled with worry. Lu Ming had killed so many people. The law enforcement team would be here soon. What should they do? Tell me, how do you want to die? Lu Ming looked at Yao Gu. You're finished. You've killed so many people. You're finished. Yao Gu roared, but his body retreated. However, Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared in front of him. "Ah, I'll kill you." Yao Gu was shocked. Then, he roared and a saber appeared in his hand. He slashed at Lu Ming. The attack of a LV4 Martial King was shocking. The onlookers kept retreating, afraid of being affected. However, the next scene left them dumbfounded. Lu Ming did not even take out his spiritual weapon. He slapped Yao Gu with his bare hand. With a clang, Lu Ming's palm hit Yao Gu's saber. Yao Gu's middle LV5 saber flew out. However, Lu Ming's palm was not affected at all. He continued to slap Yao Gu. Slap! A slap landed on Yao Gu's face. A crisp and clear sound could be heard. Yao Gu spun on the spot for dozens of rounds. He then looked at Lu Ming with a dumbstruck expression. He could not fight back against Lu Ming. Who was this young man? He was too terrifying. Yao Gu was suddenly filled with endless fear. "Tell me, how do you want to die?" Lu Ming looked at Yao Gu indifferently. Swoosh! Swoosh! At this moment, there was a sound in the sky. More than 10 figures broke through the void and flew toward them. Powerful auras were emitted from these people. Among them, there were 3 lesser completion kings. The law enforcement team of the D Tian Divine Guards had arrived. Who dares to kill people in Myriad Star City? An angry roar came from the mouth of a middle-aged man in a red robe who was the leader. Chapter 618. My lords from the law enforcement hall, this kid is a demon. He started a massacre as soon as he came out. Look, how many people has he killed? Now he wants to kill me. Yao Gu was overjoyed when he saw the people from the law enforcement hall. He shouted crazily as if he had found a life-saving straw. The red-robed man from the law enforcement hall looked at Lu Ming in the direction Yao Gu was pointing at. His expression changed drastically. He had seen Lu Ming before and he recognized Lu Ming at this moment. Yao Gu did not notice the change in the red-robed man's expression. He stepped back and looked at Lu Ming coldly. "Kid, I don't care who you are. You will be punished for killing people in Myriad Star City." Yao Gu shouted in his heart. "Yao Gu, how dare you? Kneel down and admit your guilt." The red-robed man shouted. "Ha, kid, kneel down and admit your guilt." Yao Gu laughed heartily. But in the next instant, his smile froze. That was because he realized that the red-cloaked large man had called out his name. He turned his neck stiffly and looked at the red-robed man. He forced a smile and said, "My lord, did you call the wrong name?" "What do you mean by the wrong name?" "I know you. You are Yao Gu, right? I am calling you. Kneel down now." The red-robed man shouted and a powerful aura fell on Yao Gu. Yao Gu was stunned. Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro were also stunned. The crowd was also stunned. Wasn't it the young man who killed them? Why did he ask Yao Gu to kneel down now? My lord, is there a mistake? He is the one who killed them." Yao Gu pointed at Lu Ming and shouted. "How dare you slander Lord Lu Ming? Lu Ming is an important figure. If you did not commit a serious crime, why would Lord Lu Ming kill you? Kneel down now." The red-robed man shouted. What? Lu Ming. Yao Gu's face turned ghastly pale all of a sudden. He looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. Then, his eyes were filled with endless fear. There was silence all around. Everyone stared at Lu Ming with their eyes wide open. Could this young man actually be Lu Ming? The news that Lu Ming had defeated the Sacred Star in the Heavenly Arcana branch had spread across the Eastern branch, and even the 10,000-star city. Who was the Saint Star? He was a peerless genius on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness, and his cultivation had reached the Peak King realm. It could be said that in the Tianxian region, apart from those few Sea of Soul realm experts, no one could rival him. Even such a character had been defeated by Lu Ming. How strong could Lu Ming be? Right now, Lu Ming was at the peak of Tianxian region. With his talent, he could even stand on equal footing with Sea of Soul realm experts. What kind of status was this? If others killed people in the Myriad Star City, they would definitely be punished, but Lu Ming would definitely not. Who would dare to punish him? Chapter 619. Lu Ming was a little stunned. He had never expected the Zhuang siblings to want him as their master. "Lord Lu Ming, please accept us as your disciples. We will definitely work hard and not embarrass you." Zhuang Shaoshan kowtowed, and Zhuang Xiaoro quickly followed. Lu Ming frowned. He sized up the two of them. Although their aptitudes were not top-notch, they were still considered top-notch talents. With some guidance, they might be able to achieve great things. However, Lu Ming had never thought of accepting disciples. He was still young, and the key was that he did not have the time to teach them. Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro looked at Lu Ming with anticipation. The surrounding onlookers also looked on curiously. They were all guessing if Lu Ming would accept them. After pondering for a while, Lu Ming said, "How about this? I will accept you as my in-name disciples first." Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro were overjoyed. They immediately kowtowed. "Master, please accept a kowtow from your disciples." Although they were not direct disciples and were only in-name disciples, the two of them were already satisfied. Lu Ming could not help but touch his nose. He had a strange feeling in his heart. He did not expect that he would have disciples so soon. Cough, cough. Lu Ming coughed dryly and said, "All right, get up. However, I have to tell you that I will not have the time to teach you during this period. I will bring you to the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace to cultivate first. When I am free in the future, I will teach you then." "Thank you, Master." Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro kowtowed again before getting up. "All right, let's go to the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace first." With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming brought the Zhuang siblings and headed towards the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. The surrounding onlookers were all envious. Old Zhuang's son and daughter are so lucky to be able to have Lu Ming as their master. This is really a blessing from 8 lifetimes. That's right. With this, they will have a meteoric rise. Old Zhuang can also smile in the underworld. I'm so envious. Everyone was discussing animatedly, and the news of Lu Ming accepting 2 disciples also spread. Lu Ming brought the Zhuang siblings into the eastern sky courtyard. "Xiao Shan, heal yourself first." Lu Ming gave Zhuang Xiaoshan a bottle of healing pills. "Thank you, Master." Zhuang Xiaoshan took the pill and swallowed it. He sat down cross-legged and began to heal himself. Lu Ming flicked his finger and a stream of quintessential essence flew into Zhuang Xiaoshan's body, assisting him in his recovery. Zhuang Xiaoshan's injuries quickly recovered. Then, Lu Ming took out a sound transmission jade talisman and sent out a message. Half an hour later, Zhuang Xiaoshan's injuries had stabilized and he opened his eyes. At this moment, a figure appeared in the air. It was Mu Zheng. "Xiao Shan, Xiao Rou, this is Palace Master Mu Zheng." Lu Ming introduced the 2 of them. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro were shocked. They hurried to Mu Zheng's side and bowed. They had grown up in the myriad star city and had heard of Mu Zheng's name for a long time. However, they had never seen him before. They did not expect to see this legendary figure after becoming Lu Ming's disciple. The 2 of them were excited. "Ha, Lu Ming, I just received news that you have accepted 2 disciples. I was just about to congratulate you when I received your message." Mu Zheng laughed. "Palace Master Mu, you must be joking." "Palace Master, I'm afraid that Lu Ming will not have much time to teach them in the future. I would like to leave the 2 of them in the Eastern Sky Courtyard and cultivate in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. What do you think?" Lu Ming said. "Of course, no problem. Don't worry, I will teach them when I have time." Mu Zheng said straightforwardly. "Thank you, Palace Master." Lu Ming cupped his fists. As for the Zhuang siblings, they were naturally overjoyed and thanked him. "Take these 2 tokens. In the future, you can enter and exit the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace as you wish." Mu Zheng gave Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro a token each. The brother and sister were naturally overjoyed and thanked him again. Mu Zheng smiled and then took his leave. "Xiaoshan, continue to recuperate. When you have recovered, I will impart some martial techniques to you," Lu Ming said. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Zhuang Xiaoshan's injuries had already recovered. Lu Ming also imparted some cultivation methods and martial techniques to them because of that. Zhuang Xiaoshan's bloodline was a black mountain. Lu Ming found a heaven-class inferior martial technique, Thousand Mountains technique, in his storage ring and gave it to Zhuang Xiaoshan. As for Zhuang Xiaoro's bloodline, it was a small blue sword. It was crystal clear and had a strong water attribute. Lu Ming found a heaven-class inferior martial technique. He also gave the 2 of them a few martial techniques that were suitable for them. Most importantly, Lu Ming imparted the 10,000 spirit battle body to the 2 of them. Then, he gave them 3 drops of middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid to refine their bodies. Both of their cultivations were improving every day. This was all he could give them for the time being. In the future, they would have to rely on themselves. As for the true dragon fighting art, they had to start cultivating it before the Meridian Opening Realm. Otherwise, they would not be able to cultivate it. The same went for the 3 ultimate dragon gods. They had to comprehend many different wills. These could not be imparted to them. 7 days later, Lu Ming left the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace under the reluctant gazes of the Zhuang siblings. Now, Lu Ming had to return to the Blazing Sun Empire to treat Lu Yuntian's meridians. Lu Ming flew towards the Blazing Sun Empire at lightning speed. Ever since the Blazing Sun Empire was unified, it had been stable. Everyone knew that Lu Ming was standing behind Hua Qi. No one would have second thoughts. With the help of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect and the Crimson Cloud Valley, the royal family's national power was recovering rapidly and they were thriving day by day. As for the Lu family in the east of the Blazing Sun Empire, they had become an extremely special family. Although they were not strong, everyone had to give them face. During this period, the Lu family had developed rapidly. Countless martial experts had joined the Lu family. The Lu family's strength had increased by dozens of times. Their businesses had spread to hundreds of cities. However, everyone in the Lu family would never forget that Lu Ming was the one who had brought all of this to them. Without Lu Ming, everything that they had would have vanished in an instant. In the courtyard of the Lu family head residence, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping were sitting at a stone table. They were drinking tea and chatting. Although Lu Yuntian was the Lu family head, he would not show up for small matters. He would leave everything to his subordinates to handle. He was happy to be free. I wonder how Ming is doing now. Li Ping suddenly sighed. Why? I miss Ming Lu Yuntian said. Don't you miss him? Li Ping rolled her eyes at Lu Yuntian. What a woman. Ming is now at the golden age of cultivation. Of course he needs to travel outside. We should take care of ourselves at home so that Ming won't worry. Lu Yuntian said. Although he said that, the trace of longing in his eyes could not be dispelled. You're so stubborn. Li Ping glared at Lu Yuntian. Father, mother. At this moment, a figure called out. Lu Ming's figure appeared in the courtyard. Lu Yuntian and Li Ping trembled. They looked at Lu Ming and were overjoyed. Ming you're back. Father, mother, Ming is back to see you. Chapter 620. It's good that you're back. Come, let me take a good look at you. Li Ping happily pulled Lu Ming to sit down and look at him. Lu Yuntian's face was also full of smiles. Father, mother, Ming is fine. Don't worry. Lu Ming smiled and sat down with Li Ping and the other two. Father, Ming came back mainly to heal your meridians. Lu Ming said. What? Heal my meridians? Lu Yuntian's hand that was holding the teacup trembled. Obviously, Lu Yuntian was shocked. Ming is what you said true? Can you really heal your father's meridians? Li Ping looked at Lu Ming excitedly. That's right. Father, mother, Ming obtained a bottle of the legendary life water. It can definitely heal father's injuries. Lu Ming moved his hand and the life water appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Life water, life water. I didn't expect such a treasure to exist in this world. Lu Yuntian said excitedly. Father, drink it. I'll help you refine it. Lu Ming gave the life water to Lu Yuntian. All right. Lu Yuntian received it and took a deep breath. He drank it in one gulp and sat down cross-legged. Lu Ming placed his palm on Lu Yuntian's back. True Yuan continuously flowed into Lu Yuntian's body to help him refine the life water. The life water turned into vigorous vitality energy and nourished Lu Yuntian's meridians. Wherever this energy passed, Lu Yuntian's broken and withered meridians were reconnected. Moreover, they became more vigorous and resilient. 2 hours later, the life water was completely refined. Lu Yuntian's meridians were healed and were several times stronger than before. His body was filled with vitality and was full of vitality. It's done. It's really done. Lu Yuntian circulated his cultivation technique and looked at the fiery red true qi in his palm. He was so excited that his body trembled and tears welled up in his eyes. Lu Yuntian's cultivation had already reached the martial grandmaster realm. With the help of Lu Ming, he immediately recovered a bit of his cultivation. How many years had it been? He had thought that he would never be able to practice martial arts again, and that he would never be able to recover his true qi again. But now, he had it back. No one could understand Lu Yuntian's current mood. Ming, thank you. Lu Yuntian took a deep breath and looked at Lu Ming. Father, you and I are father and son. There's no need to thank me. This is what I should do. Lu Ming smiled. He was very happy to see Lu Yuntian recover. That's great, that's great. At the side, Li Ping was also extremely excited. No one in the world knew Lu Yuntian better than her. Lu Yuntian had always had a heart for martial arts. He was a natural martial artist, so not being able to cultivate was a huge blow to him. Now, everything was fine. Father, take these cultivation techniques, martial arts techniques, and elixirs. Lu Ming took out the cultivation techniques, martial arts techniques, elixirs, and weapons that he had prepared for Lu Yuntian. These were all carefully selected by Lu Ming as they were the most suitable for Lu Yuntian. There were all kinds of cultivation techniques, enough for Lu Yuntian to use until he reached the martial king realm. Ming, do you have enough for yourself? Lu Yuntian asked. He was afraid that Lu Ming had given him so many resources that he would not be able to use them. In comparison, Lu Ming was more important. He was already very happy to be able to cultivate. The resources should be left for Lu Ming. After all, Lu Ming was at the golden age of cultivation. Father, don't worry. Ming has a lot of resources. Lu Ming smiled. Lu Yuntian took it. Father, this is a bottle of middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid. Take it and use it with Mother. Not only will it help you cultivate your flesh, it will also improve Mother's body. Lu Ming took out the bottle of middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid and handed it to Lu Yuntian. Middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid. Lu Yuntian's heart skipped a beat. He clearly knew that the price of a middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid was an astronomical figure that he could not even imagine. Taking a deep breath, Lu Yuntian looked at Lu Ming with a serious expression and asked, Ming, what's your cultivation now? Lu Ming did not hide anything and said, Peak 9th layer Martial King Realm, but it'll take me some time to reach the Peak Martial King Realm. Peak 9th layer Martial King Realm. Lu Yuntian's heart skipped a beat, before it was filled with joy. Great, great, I'll take this bottle of Xiantian origin liquid. Lu Yuntian burst out laughing. Peak 9th layer Martial King Realm was a realm that he did not even dare to imagine. How could he not be happy that Lu Ming had reached it at such a young age? This was his, Lu Yuntian's, son. The three of them chatted for a while before Lu Yuntian rushed into his room and started cultivating. Lu Ming smiled. With Lu Yuntian's talent, he believed that it would not take long for him to recover his peak cultivation. News of Lu Ming's return did not spread. In the following days, Lu Ming would chat with Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. He would focus on comprehending the lightning intent. Half a month later, Lu Yuntian's cultivation had recovered to the peak 9th layer martial master realm. Soon, he would return to the martial grand master realm. At this time, Lu Ming's lightning intent broke through again, reaching the peak of the first level. Now, it's time to raise my wind fire intent to the peak of the first level. Lu Ming entered the temple of Paragon, took out a middle-grade profound crystal, and began to break through. 7 days later, Lu Ming used 3 pieces of each of the 2 types of middle-grade profound crystals to break through to the perfected level 1 of the wind and fire concepts. With all three intents at the peak of the first level, Lu Ming's cultivation should be able to reach the peak of the King realm. However, he did not have enough resources. Lu Ming only had 6 million top-grade spiritual crystals. It was not enough for him to reach the peak of the King realm. He had no choice but to put it aside for now and focus on cultivating the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God. With all 3 intents at the peak of the first level, he could cultivate the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God to the 6th level. 3 days later, Lu Ming headed for the imperial capital. He started to think about what was at the bottom of the Earth Origin Cave. When Lu Ming was in the first layer of the Martial King realm, he did not manage to dig it out. Now, he wanted to try again. However, before going to the Earth Origin Cave, he first found Hua Qi to catch up with him. Then, he headed to the Earth Origin Cave. No one noticed Lu Ming. Silently, Lu Ming went to the lowest level of the Earth Origin Cave. It was the 14th level, the level that Lu Ming had dug out. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, this place did not affect Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming continued to dig. The 15th level, the 16th level, the 17th level. When Lu Ming dug out the 17th level and wanted to continue digging, he found that it was empty. Lu Ming dug out a hole and rushed down. He found that there was a huge underground cave below. The fire's spiritual qi here was unimaginably violent. In the air of the underground cave, a ball of fire burned fiercely like the sun. Endless heat spread out from the ball of fire. Nest, this is the earth core flowing flame. Kid, you're rich. Chapter 621. Dandan shouted excitedly. Geocentric flowing flame. Lu Ming was a little puzzled. Boy, you're really lucky. The geocentric flowing flame is a kind of top-grade flame between heaven and earth. If you use it to ignite the spirit fire, it'll be perfect. Boy, I'm starting to envy your luck. Dandan shouted. Lu Ming's eyes also lit up. If I absorb this flame, there won't be any fire attribute spirit qi here. Won't this cultivation holy land be wasted? Lu Ming said. What waste? Let me tell you, if you absorb the geocentric flowing flame, the value of this place will really explode. Haven't you noticed that this place is actually a spiritual eye? It is constantly emitting spirit qi, but it has always been absorbed by the flowing geocentric flame, or even blocked. Now that you have absorbed the flowing geocentric flame, the spirit qi here will spread out, turning this place into a true holy land for cultivation. Dandan explained. I see. Lu Ming observed carefully. True enough, he discovered that spirit energy was constantly emanating from below. However, most of it was absorbed by the geocentric flowing flame. It was even burned by the scorching flames. The remaining spirit energy spread out along with the scorching flame's aura, forming fire spirit energy. Lu Ming finally knew how the Earth Yuan Cave was formed. Boy, you can't miss this opportunity. I'll teach you how to ignite the spirit fire. First, visualize 10 spirit lamps in your sea of consciousness. Dandan began to teach. Lu Ming began to visualize the spirit lamps in his sea of consciousness according to Dandan's method. The sea of consciousness and Dantian, in a sense, were infinitely big, like 2 universes. Although the thunder cauldron occupied a part of it, Lu Ming could visualize the spirit lamps in another part of the sea of consciousness. Slowly, 10 spirit lamps seemed to appear in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness, but they were all extinguished and not lit. Now, grab the geocentric flowing flame and use the underworld visualization to absorb it into your sea of consciousness. Dandan shouted. Lu Ming waved both of his palms, forming 2 giant palms that grabbed the flowing geocentric flames. Boom! The flowing geocentric flame shook violently, as if it had a mind of its own and wanted to escape. The 3 states of wind, fire, and thunder erupted. Together with his quintessence, he firmly grasped the flowing flame in the geocentric flame and brought it before Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt as if his true essence was about to ignite. The temperature of the flowing geocentric flame was too high. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th layer martial emperor realm, and that his 3 intents had all reached the first stage perfection stage, he would not be able to deal with the earth core flowing flame. Even an ordinary great achievement king would be burned to death if they came. Refine. Lu Ming muttered. He used his true essence and concepts to temper away the violent elements of the flowing earth core flame, making it more docile. 2 hours later, Lu Ming started to use the dark god observation method to absorb the flowing flame from the earth's core and ignite his spiritual fire. Whoosh whoosh, wisps of flowing flame from the earth's core flew into Lu Ming's forehead and appeared in Lu Ming's mind. Boom! Instantly, Lu Ming felt as if he was in magma. The terrifying temperature and flames were burning his body, including his soul. Hot, too hot. Kid, you have to hold on. The higher the quality of the flame, the greater the danger of igniting your spiritual fire. However, the benefits are also unimaginable. Dandan's voice sounded. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and tried his best to control the flowing flame from the earth's core to ignite his spiritual fire. Give me some. Lu Ming roared. He controlled the flowing flame from the earth's core and ignited it towards a lamp. Whoosh, all the flowing flame from the earth's core rushed towards the first lamp. The first lamp emitted a fiery red light. Then, a wisp of flame appeared on the wick of the lamp. At first, the flame was very small, but slowly, the flame on the wick grew bigger and bigger. Finally, it started to burn fiercely. Success. The spiritual fire was successfully ignited. However, this was just the beginning. It was far from over. When the flame of the first lamp reached its peak, a wisp of flame also appeared on the wick of the second lamp. The flame grew bigger and bigger. Kid, the flowing flame from the earth's core is too strong. This is an opportunity to ignite more lamps. Take advantage of it. Dandan reminded. Lu Ming operated the underworld god observation method with all his might. When the flame of the second lamp reached its peak, a scarlet flame also appeared on the wick of the third lamp. Then, the fourth lamp, the fifth lamp, the sixth lamp, igniting 6 lamps had already reached the requirement of a true inscription master. However, it was still far from the limit. The 7th lamp, the 8th lamp, the 9th lamp, the 10th lamp. The 10 spirit lamps were all lit up. Ha! Perfect, perfect. The first stage is perfect. It really is the flowing flame from the earth's core. Dandan laughed. The 10 spirit lamps burned with scarlet spirit fire. When the flames of the 10 spirit lamps reached their peak, the spirit fire of the 10 spirit lamps suddenly gathered on the first spirit lamp, while the other 9 spirit lamps were extinguished. The flame of the first lamp started to change. It turned into an orange flame. Orange. This meant that Lu Ming had reached the second stage. The spiritual fire of a level 2 inscription master was orange. This was not the end. When the orange flame of the first lamp reached its peak, the second lamp was also successfully ignited. Just like before, the third lamp, the fourth lamp, finally, the 10th lamp. The second stage also had 10 lamps ignited. Perfect. When the orange flame of the 10 lamps reached its peak, it gathered on the first lamp again. The first lamp's flame turned yellow again. Yellow flame. Level 3 inscription master. Just like before, after the first lamp was ignited, the second lamp, the third lamp, the fourth lamp, this time, he ignited 6 lamps in one go. At this moment, he finally stopped and did not ignite the 7th lamp. The energy of the flowing flame from the earth's core has finally been used up. Ha ha ha, amazing. The first 2 stages were perfect. The third stage, you ignited 6 lamps. This is very rare. Dandan laughed and danced. Lu Ming's face also revealed a happy expression. Within the same level, the more lamps one ignited, the more vigorous the spiritual fire would be. This also meant that one's spiritual power would be stronger. Lu Ming was now a level 3 inscription master. Of course, it was only his spiritual fire that had reached level 3. If he wanted to become a level 3 inscription master, he still needed to practice inscription. Only by mastering inscription could he be considered a true inscription master. Brat, let me tell you, the strength of your spiritual flame is so strong that I'm afraid even those half-baked level 5 inscription masters here can't compare to you. Hee, the first 2 stages are perfect. There aren't many people who can achieve perfection. However, it will be difficult for you to achieve perfection in the later stages. But I still hope that you can do your best and achieve perfection in every stage. Dandan said. Lu Ming nodded. If he wanted to cultivate, of course he had to aim for the best. He would work hard. Chapter 622. Let's try engraving inscriptions. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the air and closed his eyes. Various methods of engraving level 1 inscriptions began to appear in his mind. In his mind, there were more than 3 million methods of engraving level 1 inscriptions that Dandan had given him. Each method was different. The inscriptions were like a trace of the natural world, mysterious beyond compare. After a while, Lu Ming opened his eyes. The spiritual fire revolved between his fingers and he began to engrave in the air. As his fingertips moved, a mysterious pattern was formed in the air. On top of it, a blazing aura filled the air. This was a level 1 inscription, the heat inscription. Whoosh! The heat inscription flew out and was imprinted on the wall. Then, Lu Ming waved his finger and another inscription appeared in the air. This time, it was filled with a cold aura. This was a level 1 inscription, the cold inscription. With a shake of his finger, the cold inscription also flew out and was imprinted on the wall. Interesting. Lu Ming's eyes sparkled. The spiritual fire revolved and his finger kept moving in the air. Inscriptions flew out one after another, flickering with various radiances. Nestle, success, 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 all of them. Crazy. Dandan, who was on Lin Fan's shoulder, widened its tortoiseshell eyes. Lu Ming had lit 10 spirit lamps in the first stage. Engraving level 1 inscriptions should be easy. Dandan knew this. But now, Lu Ming was engraving inscriptions for the first time. Not only was his inscription speed terrifying, but he also had a 100% success rate. This was too crazy. As far as Dandan knew, even 10 spirit lamps shouldn't be this crazy. Could this guy be an inscription genius? Dandan thought. Ha ha ha, awesome, awesome. Lu Ming felt his eyes glowing. He had a feeling that he was completely in control. It was incomparably comfortable. As he waved his finger, the speed of engraving became faster and faster. In the end, only a phantom could be seen waving and moving in the air. Flashing inscriptions flew out one after another. After half an hour, Lu Ming finally stopped. Brat, you seem to be very proud. Let me tell you, what are you proud of now? You're still far from it. Looking at Lu Ming's smug and carefree expression, Dandan was displeased and deliberately attacked him. Oh. Lu Ming was stunned. Let me tell you, the inscription you just inscribed is only a single level 1 inscription. If you want to refine weapons, refine pills, or even inscribe inscriptions, you need to combine a variety of inscriptions together. You need to combine countless level 1 inscriptions, or even low-level and high-level inscriptions. It's much more complicated than inscribing a single inscription. Boy, you still have a lot to learn. Also, do you think that your inscription speed is very fast? Let me tell you, there are many true inscription masters who can inscribe inscriptions in an instant. They can inscribe inscriptions with just a wave of their hand. They are many times faster than you. Dandan spared no effort in attacking Lu Ming. Yes, I'm still far from it. If you have time, you need to practice more. Lu Ming nodded. It was rare for him to feel that Dandan had said something human, no, something tortoise. Dandan nodded with its hands behind its back, looking like a promising child. However, in its heart, it was still shocked by Lu Ming's actions. What it was talking about were things that other people had slowly mastered after countless efforts. Who could achieve it in one go? Lu Ming's speed was already extremely amazing. Boy, try the underworld god visualization again and you'll know how wonderful it is. Dandan said. Okay. Lu Ming also couldn't wait to try it. Immediately, he closed his eyes and operated the underworld god visualization. All of a sudden, Lu Ming felt as though he was on a spiritual journey, drifting in the endless universe. Suddenly, a big river appeared in front of Lu Ming. He didn't know how wide and long this big river was. It was incomparably vast and filled with an ancient aura. Lu Ming felt that this big river had a strong attraction to him, attracting him to get closer. Lu Ming slowly flew over and flew into the big river. This is... At this moment, Lu Ming found that he had turned into a ball of flame, a ball of flowing earth core flame. The big river was filled with endless spirit fire, which was the inscription flame. The spirit fire in this big river was endless. It had turned into the color of chaos and was endless. The flowing earth core flame that Lu Ming had turned into floated in the river. Around him, wisps of spirit fire gathered towards the flowing earth core flame. At this moment, Lu Ming had a clear feeling that his spirit fire was slowly growing stronger. This is amazing. Lu Ming sighed. After a while, with a thought, the big river disappeared, and in front of him was the underground cave again. Amazing, I feel that the yellow spirit fire of the sixth spirit lamp has become stronger. Lu Ming said in a low voice. Brat, did you see a huge river? Dandan asked. Yes, what is that? Lu Ming asked curiously. He realized that he knew too little. He did not understand this world at all. Between heaven and earth, there are many laws that represent the heavenly Tao. The river you see is the law of inscription, a supreme law. The law of inscription contains endless power of inscription. If you use the underworld god observation method, you can successfully communicate with the law of inscription and obtain the power of inscription to strengthen your spiritual fire. Moreover, your flame seed is the earth core flowing flame. Coupled with the nether god observation method, I estimate that I've absorbed quite a bit of inscription energy. In the future, you can rely on this to cultivate and improve your spirit flame. Dandan explained. Oh. I seem to have heard that ordinary inscription masters don't improve their spirit fire like this. Lu Ming said. Nonsense, of course not. Dandan curled his lips and said, ordinary inscription masters have two ways to improve their spirit fire. One way is to constantly practice and use the flame of spirit through refining, alchemy, engraving inscription formations, and so on. This is equivalent to training the flame of spirit. The more you train, the flame of spirit will naturally improve. However, this method of improvement is extremely slow. Most of the inscriptionists you see use this method to improve. There's another way. It's also through weapon forging, alchemy, and so on. That's to forge weapons and alchemy beyond one's level. For example, when a level 1 inscription master forges a level 2 spirit weapon, the inscription law will descend upon him and raise his spirit flame. Of course, when forging a high-quality spirit weapon or alchemy of the same level, the inscription law will also descend upon him. It can be done like this. Lu Ming was a little stunned. Of course, there is another way, and that is the spirit fire cultivation method. You can directly communicate with the inscription force and absorb the inscription force. The speed will be countless times faster. However, the spirit fire cultivation method is too rare. Any low-level spirit fire cultivation method that comes out will cause a mad scramble. A low-level spirit fire cultivation method can create a powerful inscription force. And the underworld god observation method is the top spirit fire cultivation method. Now, you know how precious it is. Dandin said proudly. Of course, the sacred star would also improve and wouldn't remain stagnant. This was a different matter altogether. As for the concept of thunder, it had also improved greatly and was infinitely close to the second level. However, it was extremely difficult to break through to level 2. It was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Between a first-level concept and a second-level concept, there was a massive chasm that was difficult to cross. The Tao of inscription improved the fastest. After 2 months of cultivation, Lu Ming had successfully ignited another spirit lamp. 7 yellow flames burned fiercely, and he was about to ignite the 8th. However, the further one went, the harder it was to ignite a spirit lamp. The first few spirit lamps were the easiest to ignite. As for Lu Ming's inscription speed, it had already reached a terrifying level. On a mountain peak hundreds of miles away from Windy Fire City, Lu Ming had been cultivating the path of inscription on this mountain peak. Lu Ming's figure flickered as he stepped on the mountain peak. With every step he took, an inscription would appear, emitting a resplendent light. Freak, freak. In just 2 short months, he has actually cultivated inscription to this level. This freak. On a bluestone nearby, Dandin was lazily basking in the sun, chewing on a spirit herb. As he chewed, he wailed in his heart. In 2 months, Lu Ming had finally reached the level where he could inscribe inscriptions with just a wave of his hand. If it were anyone else, it would be impossible for them to do this without 10 or 20 years of hard work. No wonder Dandin was wailing in grief. Brat, to cultivate to this level, you can barely be considered qualified. Once you become a 5th-level inscription master, your mental strength will be able to communicate with the power of heaven and earth. At that time, you will be able to erupt with a terrifying attack. Dandin would not admit that Lu Ming was a freak, but he still wanted to attack him. Otherwise, how could he maintain his lofty status? Although, in Lu Ming's heart, he had never been lofty. Let's go back. Lu Ming walked over and pinched Dandin's head, tossing it over his shoulder. Ah! Brat, if you dare pinch my head again, I won't let you off. I won't let you off. Dandin hysterically screamed. Lu Ming curled his lips and flew into the air, preparing to return to the Lu family. At this moment, a strong sense of danger emanated from his heart, causing his skin to tighten. Chi-chi, in the sky, countless wind blades sliced through the air and shot towards him, filled with an incomparably sharp intent. Boom! Without any hesitation, Lin Fan's 3 wills exploded, his true yuan rumbled, and hundreds of spear lights shot out, clashing with the wind blades. Boom! Boom! Explosions sounded out in the sky, and energy shot out in all directions, causing the forest to become a mess. Chi! At this moment, a huge wind blade, black in color, slashed down from the sky. Wherever the wind blade passed, the air would tremble violently and split apart like ripples of water. True Dragon Strike. Lu Ming stabbed out with his spear, and a tricolor true dragon flew out, clashing with the huge wind blade. The air shook, and the wind blade and tricolor true dragon both disappeared. So strong. Lu Ming's eyes sharpened. Although Lu Ming hadn't broken through to the Peak King realm yet, his battle strength was something that few kings could match. But now, the person above him had battle strength that wasn't any weaker than his. Could it be a Sea of Soul realm expert? No, he didn't feel the vast aura of a Sea of Soul realm expert, so it shouldn't be one. Who is it? Come out, you sneaky bastard. Lu Ming transformed into a beam of spear gleam and charged upward. He thrust his spear and a bright beam of spear gleam soared into the sky. Wang! At this moment, the air shook, and Lu Ming felt a terrifying power acting on his body. It was as if his weight had suddenly increased by dozens or even hundreds of times. However, it was different from gravity. Lu Ming felt a huge pressure on his body. It was as if he had fallen into a quagmire. Chi-chi, around him, the sound of air being torn apart could be heard. Countless wind blades tore through the air and sliced towards him. No, this wasn't a wind blade. Although it was similar, it was more mysterious and dangerous. Interesting. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile, and his aura became even stronger. Just now, Lu Ming hadn't used his full strength at all. His true yuan circulated rapidly, and 3 intents surrounded his body. 9 dragons trampling the sky. Lu Ming flipped over, and with his head down and feet up, he took 4 steps and rushed up. Boom! Boom! Heaven and earth went berserk, and the space shook. That terrifying pressure was pierced through by Lu Ming. Lu Ming rushed up and pointed with his spear. Chapter 624. This woman had a peerless grace and was extremely beautiful. She was so beautiful that she could cause the downfall of cities and countries. She was wearing a black dress, revealing a pair of snow-white slender thighs, like the most beautiful piece of art carved by a deity. She blinked her big eyes and stared at Lu Ming without blinking. Xiao! Xiao Qing! At the sight of this lady, Lu Ming's heart skipped a few beats. Subsequently, he was elated. This beautiful woman was actually Xian Yanqing, who had disappeared for more than a year, almost 2 years. Now that she had appeared here, he almost thought that he was dreaming. Oh my, what a beautiful woman! The dandan even forgot to chew the spiritual grass as he stared with his eyes wide open. Lu Ming, I thought I had left you far behind. Not bad, it's been a while since we last met. A crisp voice came out from Xian Yanqing's mouth. Xiao Qing, where have you been all this time? Lu Ming flew over. He was very shocked as well. He had already sensed that Xian Yanqing's cultivation had reached the peak martial emperor realm. That was too terrifying. During this period of time, Lu Ming had encountered many fortuitous encounters, especially in the heaven realm. He had obtained a large number of profound crystals. Coupled with the Enlightenment Ancient Tree, which was a heaven-defying item, Lu Ming's cultivation level had soared all the way to the peak of the 9th level Martial King realm. However, Xian Yanqing's cultivation was 1 layer higher than his, reaching the peak Martial Emperor realm. Furthermore, her strength was extremely terrifying, stronger than the sacred stars. Lu Ming did not use his full strength in the short exchange, but Xian Yanqing might not have used her full strength. How did she cultivate? What's wrong? Did you miss me? Xian Yanqing stared at Lu Ming with her big eyes, the corners of her mouth curling into a smile. Of course, we've been married for a long time. Of course I missed you when you suddenly disappeared. I couldn't even eat or sleep. Lu Ming said with a smile. Nonsense, who's been married for a long time? Humph, taking advantage of me as soon as we met. Xian Yanqing rolled her eyes at Lu Ming. Her smiling face blushed a little. However, deep in her eyes, there was joy. It had been a long time since they last met. Xiao Qing, tell me the truth, where have you been? Your cultivation has improved so much. If I hadn't worked hard, I would have been surpassed by you this time. Lu Ming asked curiously. Sigh. Xian Yanqing let out a sigh as she said with a complicated look, I went to a place I didn't want to go, so I found a chance to come out. Oh, did you miss me and come out to look for me? Lu Ming chuckled. Who's thinking about you? Dream on. Xian Yanqing blushed and glared at Lu Ming. Shameless, this guy is shameless. Pretty girl, don't listen to him, this guy always says that when he sees pretty girls. Dandan Dawn eyes rolled, Xian angrily. This little tortoise. Lu Ming, when did you raise a little tortoise? It's quite cute, isn't it? Xian Yanqing looked at Dandan Dawn eyes. Ha, beautiful lady, listen carefully. I'm not an ordinary tortoise. I'm the leader of the top 10 battle beasts. My combat strength is peerless. I'm proficient in astronomy, geography, and the way of inscription. I can give you whatever you want. Coincidentally, I'm lacking a maid. Nestle, brat, what are you doing? Dandan Dawn hands behind its back, looking proud. Before it could finish its words, it was slapped back by Lu Ming. Boy, how dare you slap me? How dare you, I'll bite. Dandan glared at Lu Ming, bared its teeth, and suddenly pounced on Lu Ming, wanting to bite Lu Ming's finger. Lu Ming pinched Dandan's head and lifted it into the air. Dandan's short limbs kept struggling in the air, and its eyes were about to spit fire. Seeing that it was about time, Lu Ming put Dandan down. Ah, boy, you're finished. You're completely finished. How dare you pinch my head? You're finished. Dandan Dawn screamed non-stop. Sigh, I don't have any elixirs recently. I'll have to use them sparingly. Lu Ming sighed. Dandan Dawn's screeching stopped abruptly. Its eyes were wide open, and its shell kept moving up and down. It was obviously angry. Ha, Xian Yanqing Dawn laughed. Your pet tortoise is really interesting. Xian Yanqing Dawn laughed. Beauty, I'm not a pet. I'm a top 10 battle. Before it could finish its words, Lu Ming took out a level 5 spiritual herb and threw it to Dandan Dawn to shut up. Shao Qing, how did you find me? Lu Ming Dawn asked. It wasn't easy to find you. I first went to the East Branch Palace of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and sparred with that old man Mu Zheng. That old man was stubborn and didn't say anything at first. Later, Jian Fengyun recognized me, and that old man told me that you had returned to the Sun Empire. That's when I found Hua Qi told me that you were at the Lu family, so I went to the Lu family and coincidentally saw you here. Xian Yanqing Dawn explained. Lu Ming Dawn smiled bitterly and mourned for Mu Zheng. It seemed like Xian Yanqing Dawn had definitely messed things up in the East Branch Palace. Let's go back to the Lu family first. My parents miss you a lot. Lu Ming Dawn smiled faintly. What do your parents miss me for? Xian Yanqing Dawn lips curled up into a smile and her eyes were like autumn water. After 2 years, Xian Yanqing Dawn was almost 20 years old. She was even more beautiful than before. Her figure was amazing. She had lost some of her youthfulness and gained a mature charm. She was shockingly beautiful. She seemed to be even more beautiful than Mulan's and Autumn Moon. The two of them walked side by side and headed back to the Lu family. Lu Ming Dawn and Xian Yanqing Dawn landed in the courtyard of the Lu family head residence. Father, Mother, I'm back. Lu Ming Dawn called out. Ming is back. Two figures walked out of the room. They were Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. After more than 2 months, Lu Yuntian's cultivation had completely recovered to the martial Grand Master realm. Furthermore, he had surpassed his previous cultivation and his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. He had reached the rank 7 martial Grand Master realm. Destruction before re-establishment. Lu Yuntian's talent was originally very high. After experiencing so much over the years, his martial heart was strong and unwavering. His comprehension of the martial Tao was also very deep. His cultivation naturally improved at an astonishing rate. Moreover, just a few days ago, Lu Yuntian had comprehended the fire force. Lu Yuntian and Li Ping's gaze swept past Lu Ming Dawn and then landed on Xian Yanqing Dawn. The two of them were stunned at first, then they were overjoyed. Miss Nianqing, it's Miss Nianqing. Li Ping called out. Nianqing greets uncle and auntie. Congratulations to uncle for recovering your cultivation. Xian Yanqing Dan bowed. She could naturally tell at a glance that Lu Yuntian's cultivation had already recovered. Ha ha ha, Miss Yanqing, there's no need to be so polite. It's been a long time. I'll get someone to prepare a banquet to welcome Miss Yanqing back. Lu Yuntian laughed. Thank you, uncle. Xian Yanqing Dan said. Why are you so polite this time? Lu Mingdan looked at Xian Yanqing Dan in surprise. She had never been so polite before. Xian Yanqing Dan's face turned slightly red. She glared at Lu Ming and said, "It's none of your business." Ha! Lu Yuntian laughed. Li Ping's eyes scanned Xian Yanqing Dan's body, looking very satisfied. Chapter 625. A day later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stood side by side on Emerald Cloud Peak outside Windy Fire City. Lu Ming, what are your plans after this? Xian Yanqing asked. How about leaving Tianxian Domain and going to a wider world to train and cultivate? Do you want to come with me? Lu Ming's eyes were deep and seemed to be able to penetrate space. He looked into the distance and his eyes were filled with anticipation. Tianxian Domain was too small after all. The outside world was more exciting. Tianxian Domain only had one Saint Star on the list of top 1,000 talents in Eastern Wilderness, and it was ranked last. What about the other geniuses? How powerful were they? How powerful were they? Lu Ming wanted very much to see if he could clash with those unparalleled geniuses so that he could become stronger. Upon hearing Lu Ming's words, the corners of Xian Yanqing's lips curled up slightly. There was a smile on her face as she said, "Sure, of course I want to be with you. I haven't fulfilled my promise to myself back then." Promise? What promise? Lu Ming asked curiously. To defeat you and trample you under my feet, of course. You can't run away. Xian Yanqing chuckled. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. This girl still remembers that. How long has it been? It seems that this woman is really petty. She's too vengeful. Lu Ming muttered to himself. However, he still felt a sense of urgency. Xian Yanqing's improvement was too shocking. If he was slower, he would be surpassed by Xian Yanqing. Furthermore, during the time that Xian Yanqing had disappeared, the martial skill that he had cultivated had undergone some changes. It seemed to have become even more shocking. Where did she go? Did she break into a secret place or go back to her own home? If she went back to her own home, then her family background is amazing. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and pondered. However, Xian Yanqing obviously didn't want to talk about her family background, so he didn't ask. What are you looking at? Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at him. Then, his eyes flashed as if he had thought of something. He asked, Lu Ming, have you found the secret of the martial emperor's treasure that your father mentioned? Are you talking about this? A jade sword the length of a finger appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up. A jade sword the length of a finger also appeared in his hand. It was almost the same as the one in Lu Ming's hand. Wang! Wang! The two infused their quintessence at the same time. The jade swords lit up, and a map appeared on each of the jade swords. On the map, there was a route that led to a destination. Both of them had the same destination. It seems like there are quite a lot of these jade swords. Lu Ming said. As far as I know, this jade sword should be the key to the martial emperor's treasure. There should be 9 of them, and they should be scattered all over the eastern wasteland. Although the couple was reluctant, they were happy that Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming were going out on an adventure together. Only by going out together could they quickly develop feelings for each other, right? Whoosh! Whoosh! Two beams of light streaked across the sky and disappeared into the horizon. The two's speed was unbelievably fast. After a few days, they arrived at Tianxian City. With Lu Ming's current reputation, it was not easy for him to take the interprovince transportation formation. 2 days later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stepped onto the interprovince transportation formation. The interprovince transportation formation formed a huge whirlpool. With a flash of light, the two disappeared from the altar. The Yunfeng domain was a large domain near the chaotic astral ocean. It was extremely vast. However, the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace was not the only force in this large domain. A few powerful forces had established their forces here, such as the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, the Sky Corpse Sect, and the Sky Demon Valley. They had also built interprovince transportation formations. To go to the chaotic astral ocean, one had to first teleport here and then fly to the chaotic astral ocean. However, before Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing went to the chaotic astral ocean, there was one more thing that they had to do. To be precise, Xian Yanqing had to seize a treasure from one of the forces in the Yunfeng domain. The interprovince transportation formation in the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace of the Yunfeng domain flashed and two figures appeared. They were Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Nestle, the cost is too expensive. Lu Ming cried out in pain. The Tianxian domain and the Yunfeng domain were 23 large domains apart. The cost of the transportation was 1,500,000 supreme spiritual crystals per person. The two of them cost a total of 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. In order to show his manliness, Lu Ming naturally paid out of his own pocket. In the end, he was heartbroken. Now, he was only left with more than 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. It seems like I have to find a way to get some supreme spiritual crystals. Otherwise, I won't even have enough to use, let alone become a peak king. Chapter 626. The two of them left the territory of the Emperor Sky Divine Palace and turned into two rays of light, heading towards the west. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was extremely famous in the Yunfeng domain. It was one of the most famous forces besides the Emperor Sky Divine Palace. This force mainly focused on alchemy. They were very famous for their alchemy skills and the elixirs that they refined were highly sought after. Most importantly, the reputation of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was very good. Every month, the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution would open its doors. Martial artists who liked alchemy could enter the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution and study there for 3 months. During these 3 months, the alchemy experts of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution would impart their experience and skills. All of this was free of charge. It was also because of this that the Cloud Sea Pill Institution was able to survive under the influence of the other overlords. Moreover, they were living a comfortable life, and their strength was getting stronger and stronger. Their goal was to go to the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution and seize one of their treasures, the Heavenly Demon Fruit. Cough, cough. It doesn't seem right for us to seize other people's treasures for no reason. On the way, Lu Ming coughed a few times. Lu Ming was quite principled. Unless it was an enemy, he wouldn't seize other people's treasures for no reason. Moreover, this force had a good reputation. I'm getting rid of evil for the people. Do you really think that the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution is as good as the rumors say? Those are just tricks that the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution use to deceive the world. I've already investigated it. The things that the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution does in the dark are infuriating and outrageous. Xian Yanqing said as a cold light flashed in his eyes. What do you mean? Lu Ming asked. Come with me. I'll bring you to have a look. Xian Yanqing said. The two of them flew for a few days. They had already reached the territory of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. The two of them landed in the mountain range and walked forward. There was a small town in front of them. Most of the people living there were ordinary people, but there were a few low-level martial artists. The two of them strolled around the town. "How is it? Did you see anything?" Xian Yanqing asked. Lu Ming swept his gaze across, his frown deepening. "The people in this town are very strange. Most of them have low blood and qi, especially the children." Lu Ming said. "That's right. Do you know why?" Xian Yanqing asked. There was a flash of light in Lu Ming's eyes. During this period of time, he had made great progress in his inscription Dao. Naturally, his judgment was different. He thought of one possibility. Before Lu Ming could say anything, Xian Yanqing had already explained, "That's because the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution often come here and secretly extract the innate blood and qi of the babies. When the babies are born, the qi of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution isn't heavy. The innate blood and qi are the most useful. They use the innate blood and qi to refine pills. This causes the babies whose innate blood and qi of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution to grow up with insufficient qi of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. However, for the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, living to the age of 30 is already enough, because they have already married and had children. Their children will also end up in the same situation. Perhaps, in the eyes of the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, ordinary people are just some animals that they have raised. Perhaps, in the eyes of the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, these people are just some human-shaped elixirs. Livestock? Human-shaped elixirs? Lu Ming's heart trembled. A cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. If that was the case, then the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution were simply a bunch of greedy demons. It's not just this small town. Within 1,000,000 miles of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, all the small towns and villages that are slightly more remote are in a similar situation. Most of these villagers are ordinary people. The strongest are only martial warrior level martialists who have never traveled too far in their lives. They still think that a person's lifespan is around 30 years old. Xian Yanqing smiled coldly. Lu Ming's face was gloomy. These people could obviously live to 80 or 90 years old. However, their innate blood and qi of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution had been extracted when they were babies. Their lifespan was greatly reduced and they thought that they could only live to 30 years old. How sad was that? The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution is doing far more than this. They use the blood and qi of the babies to refine pills and then sell them at a high price to martial artists in the chaotic astral ocean who practice evil cultivation techniques. They make a huge profit. Xian Yanqing explained. It seemed that he had investigated the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution very thoroughly. "Let's go. I'd like to meet the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution." The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes had disappeared. However, his tone was extremely cold. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was located on a majestic mountain range. The place was grand and majestic. Spiritual qi was dense, and it was as beautiful as a fairyland. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was actually a family called the Yun family. Because they often opened their doors and imparted alchemy techniques to others, it was called the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. It was said that the head of the Yun family was a Sea of Soul Realm Almighty. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing naturally couldn't just kill their way in. They planned to sneak in and check out the situation first. Over the past few days, the Cloud Sea City in front of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution had become lively. This was because the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution opened their doors every month to impart alchemy techniques. Martial artists from all over the Cloud Peak region who were interested in alchemy gathered there. There were even people from other regions. The two of them came at the right time. Tomorrow was the day when the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution opened their doors. The two of them strolled around the city. Along the way, they attracted the attention of passers-by. It was mainly because of Xian Yanqing's beauty. Such a peerless beauty was rare in the world. Miss, are you going to enter the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution to learn alchemy as well? A handsome young man with a slender figure walked over and asked with a smile. His eyes were fixed on Xian Yanqing, revealing a trace of passion. Xian Yanqing glanced at him with a cold expression and didn't answer. Miss, I'm Gu Huaxiu, the young master of the Gu family. This should be your first time in Cloud Sea City, right? If you don't mind, I'm willing to show you around the city. The young man continued and reported his family background. His eyes were fixed on Xian Yanqing. As for Lu Ming, he directly ignored him. Get lost. Xian Yanqing frowned and spat out coldly. Gu Huaxiu's face instantly darkened. Xian Yanqing actually told him to get lost. No woman had ever dared to speak to him like that. Gu Huaxiu flicked his sleeve and strode away. Before he left, he glanced at Lu Ming with killing intent. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He was completely speechless. He hadn't even said a word and was directly implicated. However, he knew Xian Yanqing. When the young man came over to greet them, he knew that this would be the outcome. The two of them continued to stroll around for a while and found a restaurant to have a meal. After that, they found an inn to rest in. The next day, it was time for the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution to open their doors. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing left Cloud Sea City and headed to the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. It was very simple to enter the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. All they had to do was fill in the basic information and they could enter. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.